All of it tonight shall be poofed into your brains. You shall sniff it all like the gases you see in front of your face. Know this. It is okay, because you will be okay and safe, but just with a lot more knowledge. Warning, highly educational. Warning, highly educational. Warning, highly educational. Fuck this. It's 5:02. Let's go ahead and talk some IT with Glenn and Tony. What do you think? Are you guys excited? Are you guys ready? Because I don't know if you don't say so. So let's do this again. Are you ready to talk some IT with Glenn and Tony? Let's do it. Highly educational, highly educational, highly educational.
Highly
So
educational.
educational. Highly educational. Most certainly. Welcome, everyone.
Great to see you,
Good to see
Glenn.
people stopping in. Making sure everything's all set up on this side over here. So we got sound going, and that's always good. We got video going. I like it. It's always a good start.
And that's something I'd like to actually talk about tonight for Saturday.
Mhm.
We're looking to jam. Anybody out there with an instrument that needs to get set up on Zoom and what the process is, that's something we can kind of cover a little later.
Nice. Sounds like a plan for a Saturday. In the meantime, though, today's Thursday. We know what that means. It means we got music to do. We were just talking about a little chord progression a minute ago. What do you think? You want to do that with that, starting on that E or no?
On the E,
I was thinking,
minor or major?
yeah, I was thinking E minor and then A minor. And then we were doing D minor, G major, back to the C.
Oh, that C sounds so
Because you had to work your way all the way there for that C.
What do you do after the A? E, A,
To the D minor.
oh, D, G.
There we go. And then if I had another section in that song, I would go from the C to the F in the other section. And just kind of bounce that back and forth and then go back into the main thing. But that's the thing, is that too many changes in one section and only a couple in the other? But it's a question of how it feels.
So are we in B or C here?
In this
C,
case,
right?
the whole thing was really in C. It's just a
We
five
just
chord
started
progression.
on we started on a third.
Yep, we started on the 3.
3, 6,
Mm-hmm.
2, 5, 1.
Yep. And in this way, we're using almost all of the chords other than that, the 7 that we don't like to use at all, and the 4 that we're leaving out at the moment.
Yeah, 7, bad.
The 7 has its place, but not every time.
Just not here.
Just not here. And that's usually, most places, just not here.
See, now I'd be inclined to change that 2
Mhm.
to a major.
Yep. I hear you do that sometimes, and I like that.
It sounds more flowy.
Sure. In theory, you could do them all a major if you wanted to. Try that. See what they all sound like as major.
Oh, E major. It's not bad, but it actually feels better starting on the minor.
Yeah.
And basically staying in C with just that little. We're basically shifting the mode down one, right? We're just bringing the.
In this case, it's more of
We're
a
bringing
borrowing, or it's more like we're not fully in C major. If we start changing that D major, like that D major, I think would be more considered the 5 of the 5. So it's considered to be the 5 chord of a G major, is why it kind of
the
works
G.
here.
Yeah, well, it does sound nice. I mean, B minor, A minor, D major, G major, C major.
And then what would F feel like if you went from there?
The F feels good.
It's like a treading water. It doesn't feel like it wants to go anywhere, and it doesn't really fit in with the
Yeah,
motion
it does
we had
feel
going.
like I get like the road stops there.
What if you went from that 4 to the 6? Or actually, sorry, from the 4 then to the 3. So you go from that F to that E, and then the same order from the beginning again.
The F to the E. Let's see. I feel like I'm tempted to go to a B.
Nice.
Which I know we're not supposed to use the 7th, but
No,
it
it's
actually
not that
does kind of feel good there.
Not that we're not supposed to. I mean, the question is if you're feeling it as major or minor, and what it's actually
Well, at that
to,
point,
because it's not to the diminished one is the main thing.
Yeah,
If it was
at
the
that
diminished
point,
one, you would definitely feel it.
With the D becoming a major and then going to the B, I don't feel like I'm in C anymore.
Right, exactly.
I feel like I'm in a weird E minor.
And E minor would be related to your G major. So that would only be the 1 sharp and the F sharp. So that would make sense. Still being very similar to C.
The B almost goes to the G pretty nice. I don't know if that'll work with that part. I mean, it's a little off because we're kind of key shifting at that point, but
Sure.
it does kind of roll off.
It's all about what journey it kind of takes us on, how it feels at that point.
It's
Hmm.
funny how those keys really should not necessarily work together,
Hmm.
but they can.
But that's the importance of not always following the rules necessarily, like understanding why the rules are there and understanding how they help and everything, but understanding that there are times where you just try something different and like, oh, see if it feels better as a minor or better as a major, because there's plenty of times where I've had friends who wrote songs who didn't have that much um, music theory knowledge, but they wrote songs that sounded and felt right, and
Mhm.
they don't even know how to describe some of the chords they're using, but they know how to do them. They know how to make the chord. They know how to do the song.
I'm not actually thinking a theory at this point when I'm just with that starting chord. I'm just kind of like, what does it sound like?
Hmm. Exactly.
Sound good? When I
Hmm.
was going to the D minor, that throws me
Feels a
off.
little clunky, right?
Like I feel like I'm writing a horror soundtrack at that point.
Sure.
It's a little scary sounding, but with the shifting it to the D major,
Hmm.
does feel nice and right, and then
Yeah.
it goes to the G better. You got that kind of boom, 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 kind of jump up, jump up, jump up, and then that B just kind of throws you off. Mind fuck.
And that's why you land there and kind of back and forth right there. I like that. Yeah.
Oh, Daltonus,
Yep, yep.
Ange wants to email you if you can DM her your email.
Oh, that's right.
I was searching for it earlier, but since you're here,
Let's see some highs out there. We got hi to Pat. Good to see you again, Pat. Glad to see you in the
Father
chat
Pat.
tonight. And we got Daltenius, DJ The Reason, Emiliano. We got Timur 7000 and Rolo.
Oh,
Everybody
Timor.
hanging out. Yep, yep.
Great to see you.
Good to see everybody. And this, if you're just joining us, this is something that we're just talking about a little chord progression. Just before, we're just talking about using most of the chords, not using the 7 and not using the 4, and just basically
Well,
using
I
a
already
progression that
broke
kind of
the
bounces.
rule.
We already broke those, but that's
I already
actually
broke the
that's it.
rule and used the 7, but the 7
Yep,
sounds
yep.
good if you
But no,
throw
this
it
is
in
how
the
we
right place.
breaking the rules and changing it up is definitely part of the whole experimenting and finding out what sounds good and what feels right. Because as you said, that D minor didn't feel right, but that was technically what I would have written it as if I was just writing it on paper and not listening to it. But that's the importance of
Yeah.
hearing how it sounds and hearing how it feels. And then as you're doing it, you're like, no, that doesn't feel right. So you make an adjustment.
And that's why sometimes theory, why I didn't always glom to theory, because a lot of the times my teachers were trying to teach me that on paper and
Right.
drawing the dots. And it's easy to see patterns in the dots, but if you don't hear what it's actually doing,
Mhm.
a lot of times I would write stuff on the staff that I didn't necessarily like how it sounded after I translated it.
Exactly. And then
It's
you're
nice
looking
to
at it and you're like,
feel it out.
but it's like, that's in the rules. Like I followed every rule and that's what it says it should be, but that doesn't make it sound right. Or it doesn't make it sound good
The
necessarily.
rules don't necessarily sound the best.
One thing that I found was happy accidents, right? And that's one of those fun things, is like happy little accidents. Like you're sitting there playing a riff or something that you've done dozens of times or whatever, and you miss the landing and land one string away from where you thought you were. So your brain is expecting da na na, but what instead you get is da na na, and like you get a higher note. And you're like, oh, you're like shocked by it, but then you're like, oh, it opens up that new possibility. Like I
It
don't
gets
have
you
to always
thinking.
land there.
Yeah,
Right.
it gets you thinking like, oh, damn, I don't have to go down. Going up
Yep.
sounds cooler.
Yep. Going up and skipping a few notes, and like just knowing or um, focusing on. And when people say like soloing is easy, you just have to focus on landing on or emphasizing the chord tones and what you do in between there, whether you do chromatic moves or slides or big skips and jumps and doing arpeggios, all that kind of stuff. That's why it's good to know the arpeggios, know the scales, know where you should be or what the home key is and all of that. But trying to forget about this scale and that scale and whatever, and just know which are the good notes and where you want to end up, because knowing where you want to end up is good. And a lot of people will say if you're on stage, you shouldn't really be in uncharted territory. But again, there's a big difference between on stage and what you're doing, just sitting around,
Yeah,
working on stuff.
I would
So
not
that's
experiment like this if I was on stage. And
exactly. Well, it depends on what you're doing too. I mean, it could be if you're just at a jam and someone's like, "Hey, let's just play something in E," and you just started whatever. That's different, But if you were trying to do a particular piece of music, yeah, you would definitely want to stick more to what's there rather
I
than
would
just
I
winging
would
it.
typically in that situation I would play in key. I'm less inclined to try those unusual additions, those modal shifts
Mhm.
when when I'm just trying to jam with someone, trying to get comfortable in a zone, playing in a scale is a lot easier in that situation.
Right. With
And
guitar, a lot of
E
people get locked into
minor,
positions, though, is one thing. That's hard to break a beginner or even some intermediate guitarists out of is, okay, I know you say, oh, you know your pentatonic scales, and they're like, yeah, and they can play all 5 positions. But if you tell them play something in, A minor, they can just go to the 5th fret and they'll be in that pattern. And they'll always start at the bottom and they'll always end up at the top. And it's the riffs that they use sound the same all the time. So but what you want to do is use those as, here's the template of good notes, and try to tell your story. You're going to have the note go up and then hang out here and then hang out there a little bit, maybe throw some notes in that shouldn't be there, just to mix it up a little bit. Doing things like that to change it up from what people are expecting can make it sound new and interesting.
Yeah. The whole reason why that E progression there that you've thrown at me came easy to me is because I actually typically do that in A, where it's now that's the weird chord in my A minor, and
Sure.
then this is another weird chord, but
It's got a good feel to it, though.
Yeah, it's the same changes that I did over on the E. So it's basically it's the last 2 chords that modal shift. Which gives it that nice little dark ending, and then can go anywhere. I mean, I don't even have to stay in A minor at that point.
Exactly. And actually, Yudi was just saying, on a hot night, every note is a good note. And it's true. I mean, that's one thing, is if you're playing in C major or any of the modes of C major, so you're only using white notes, if you wanted to play something that sounded different and outside, you could literally just play all the black notes, because that's literally every one of those notes is outside the scale. But if you're playing them all as a pentatonic scale, as we were saying, as long as you're ending up a lot of the time on either the E flat or the G flat, all those notes are out. So none of those are in anywhere for C major or A minor, but you can use a passage of those in between something. So like if you're trying to get past, like if you wanted to skip that odd chord at the end there, like if it didn't feel right, let's say, in a progression you were doing, when you get there, you can just play a bunch of the black notes and then land on whatever that home chord should be and see what that feels like.
I stayed with the black notes.
Nice. It doesn't sound like they're wrong, so it's
No. I could work with it. Totally wants me to go into F sharp minor now. Now I want to go to E.
It's all about what it feels like.
It's hard actually to stay with just the black keys on a build-up like.
And again, you don't have to stay there. It was more about just throwing in little passages of them in there so that it's somewhere you can go that's not normally in the passages you would use. But it gets you there.
Yeah, F sharp major is that's the one with all the black keys, huh? Or mostly.
See, I see that one is G flat major.
Oh yeah, it's got two white keys.
Yeah. But if you were playing that F sharp major or G flat major pentatonic, that is exactly what you're playing. It's just those black notes. starting on that G flat or F sharp.
So G flat major pentatonic is the same as F sharp major.
The same as F sharp major pentatonic. G flat and F sharp are the same note. It's just that you would normally call it G flat because of the fact that, again, if you were to name each note as you went along, you should only ever have, in a scale, a normal scale, you should only ever have one of any letter. So like you can't have in this case, an F and an F sharp in the same scale, but you can have a G flat and an F sharp. So like if you were to go up that scale from that, from that G flat, that's an F right before that F sharp. So you can't really call that F and F sharp. That's the reason that you would call it F and G flat, exactly. That's why we call it that. But it is technically the same note. So you can call each, F sharp, G flat, but in this case, to make it make more sense, it should be the G flat, just because of the fact that you should only have one of every letter in your scale.
Yeah, whether it's flat or sharp at that point is depending on what key you want to say that you're in.
And then you really blow your mind and start saying, okay, well now you look at the different modes of that, and you could, sharpen the 4 or flatten the 6, or there's different variations of what you were trying to do. But it's all about that exploration. It almost has that wormy sound to it also.
Yeah,
E flat minor, E flat minor pentatonic uni. Yeah, exactly. E flat minor pentatonic is all the black keys as well, just like the G flat major pentatonic. It's the same 5 notes, which is all the black notes. It's just a matter of whether you're kind of starting, ending, and emphasizing. The E flat or the G flat will determine whether it feels more like the G flat major or the E flat minor, but it's all the same notes.
That's E flat minor. It's got a nice dark. Hard as fuck to change to something, but that's a new one for me.
What I was going for was all the black keys being the pentatonics, but by doing it this way, you're looking at the full scale, which is even better. Getting the extra 2 notes in there, and really if you're feeling out how the scale feels.
That's a really nice scale just for starting out with. I like that nice open minor chord off the E flat. Really ominous.
Yeah, definitely. I like it. And that's what I love most about music exploration, is just trying to see what different intervals feel like, what different scales feel like together, especially when they don't go together according to the rules or according to what you would normally do, because then it brings you to new territory.
Or just how in general, just a single chord by itself, how it rings. I mean, there's a difference between a C major and a G major. I mean, those are both major chords, but I got a different mood from a G than I do a C. C feels brighter to me. It's got that little extra zing to it. So if I'm going to play in C major, I know what the sound is going to start like.
Exactly.
Whereas G's got more of a it's a more solemn major sound.
And then how does the F sound after that?
Would you say F sharp?
Just F right next to her, F major, because you go from that C to the G to the F. That's a 1, a 5, and a 4. So like bouncing that around.
Yeah, see that F. Actually, as it goes down, they each feel a little more solemn. Like that's like imagine all the people. That's a good major chord to get that kind of feeling off of.
Mm-hmm. In a progression like that, where you're using a C, F, and a G, you're using a 1, a 4, and a 5, whatever order you're putting them in. But that C would feel most like home. But if you were just going around in any order,
and also the inversion, because I mean this F sounds different than this F.
Definitely. And that's the other thing I was thinking is the lowest one that you go to sounds like home or feels like home, but not always.
Yeah, that first inverted F really feels more like a C now. Like this feels like a bright major chord. It's still the same F as just a different inversion, but starting this way feels bright, like the same way that the C feels in root position. And the F really goes well with the C, so.
And then to that G. For the G, I would go even with the G below both of those.
Oh, and I saw red. I figured out a song that I've always wanted to know.
You just kind of accidentalized right into it. Nice. I have the pads on here, but they're very small pads.
That's another one I've been playing with this week. Finally got some good drum programs into this machine. Easy Drummer, thanks to Jason Jacobs.
Nice.
Helped me understand the damn program, and it has been very, very useful.
And actually, one of the things that you mentioned about that was just how much you can absorb by watching somebody who knows what they're doing in a program like that. So that's where, whether you're usually the kind of person who would watch a video or watch a tutorial about something, if you find a good source, like Creative Sauce, for example, for all of the cakewalk stuff, finding a good source where you can just watch someone actually going through the steps and see how it looks on screen and get that kind of in there at the same time that you're hearing about it, and it just makes it that much easier to work with things like that going forward.
Yeah, I like seeing things in action. I can pick up a program a lot faster just watching it implemented.
At the same time, I do like diving through the menus, like what we said about, going through and like, oh yeah, I changed this, I changed that. And it's like, wait, you looked at the menus? And it's like, I mean, that's one of those things that we do. Like, I'll go through, like, Angie was talking about it. Like, when we go into a new program, it's like, I will dive in and just go through all the menus and be like, yeah, okay, that should be off. Yeah, that should be on. And it's like, you don't necessarily know what should be what, but I know what kinds of features that I would find useful, or I'm like, why would they even have this option? Get it out of here.
Yeah, my typical approach with a brand new program is to kind of look at every option and see what's available.
It can be overwhelming. So sometimes I'll just skip entire pages, but
you don't typically pick up all those options until you implement them.
Right.
Till you have something where you're using the option, and then you realize, like, oh, that's what that's for.
But understanding at a higher level of just like, what options you have, like what buckets they're in. You're like, oh, these are reverbs, these are delays, whatever. Like, just knowing what you have at your disposal so that when it's time to actually dive in, oh, I need a reverb. Okay, I know it's in this neighborhood and I can go dive in, that spot.
And that's why it was nice watching like Jason at work, because I could see how he'd bring in a reverb. I mean, I'm not just learning Easy Drummer at that point watching him, I'm learning Reaper.
Exactly.
How it works with VSTs, and I'm relating it to like how I would do it in Cakewalk. I mean, fortunately, because I have some experience in one DAW, watching somebody in another one, it just makes it that much easier to translate to the other DAW.
It's also why I would recommend not always being locked into one DAW. And I mean, doing all your stuff or most of your stuff in one DAW is perfectly fine, but being familiar enough with another DAW, since there are a few free DAWs out there, it would be useful to go in and see, because you might find that you know how to do it perfectly in Studio One or whatever, but then you might see somebody working in Reaper and you go, wait, that looks so much faster or so much easier than
Yeah,
what I've been doing. And it's not
that's
necessarily
why
that
I'm
way,
kind of
but
sold on Reaper. I'm watching Jason like do
watching the
something in
workflow.
1 hour that I'd be like 4 hours trying to do the same thing. I'm like, okay, maybe I should start using this program.
Yeah, it's worth investigating for workflow because again, it could be, and it could be the other way around. Somebody could be working in Reaper and struggling with it, and then they see you working in Cakewalk or whatever, and they say, "Oh, why am I not doing that?" Because for them, it might be the other way around. They might prefer the way that one is set up because not everybody has the same preferences with the way they would want to work with these things. But the important thing is to find what works for you, and also being focused on one is fine, but understanding at least more than one makes it that much easier to understand another one. So like if you understand two of them, somebody else has a third one that you've never seen, you'll have a better idea of what's where because it might be more similar to Studio One or it might be more similar to Reaper. But if you knew both, then that gives you more of a a better place to start from.
Yeah, DJ, the reason was saying,
FL, yeah,
yeah, Fruity Loops. Fruity
yeah.
Loops is great, especially if you're a beat maker.
Mm-hmm.
They definitely have a strong point there where it makes it nice and easy to get in playing with loops and putting together beats. That's its forte. I
Mm-hmm.
used it back between like 2008 to like 2010. I was shifting between that and Cubase, and the only reason why I don't use it now is because uh, it's more beat centric, and with me, VST plugins and support, and like what Cakewalk has for the Pro Strip, you
Mm-hmm.
know, for mixing and mastering, I would say right now for the price, Cakewalk, there's no competition because nothing else is free.
Mm-hmm.
Reaper is close because it's free, it's donationware. So technically, Reaper is fully functional. You just got to deal with the little nag screen at the beginning, but it is free in that sense. And if you're willing to support them for $50, you can get rid of that nag screen.
And that was the same with what was the other drummer I mentioned? I think it was MT Pro Drummer. Was that what I said?
Yeah.
I think it was MT Pro Drummer. That one, the same thing as far as when you first launch it, it tells you, hey, you can donate here, and you can, and if you donate, it'll make the nag screen go away. But it's fully functional software in the meantime, so it is.
Yeah,
really
and
cool.
you'll see a lot of music software has kind of gone that route where,
Mm-hmm.
the software developers realize like it's of no benefit to give people crippleware, and
And give them a
if it's
frustrating
really
experience.
good software, they tend to get the donations. I would venture to say Reaper probably pays for itself,
Mm-hmm. Indeed. And
and they
yeah,
don't ask for a
there are
lot.
definitely different DAWs are better at different individual things. That's definitely true. You'll find that, oh, I like the workflow better in this one, or I like the signal chain better in that one, or this one has the better effects built in.
That's a big
But
one.
mhm,
Signal chain.
yeah,
The whole reason why I was reluctant to go to any other dog was I
mhm,
finally got used to bus mixing with
mhm,
Cakewalk, and
yep.
it's a big part of how I mix now. Once you go bus
It's hard to
mixing,
step back from. Yeah.
it's hard to not want to go that route. And fortunately, I've seen the translation over to Reaper the way Jason does. They don't call it buses, but it is essentially the same theory.
Right.
You create these master audio channels that you route your tracks through.
Mhm.
And
And you can individually set effects on. Yeah.
I have to say, watching Jason do it,
Mhm.
I kind of like the little differences with Reaper on how they handle it because
Mhm.
they organize them in very logical ways.
Right.
You get a lot of routing possibilities, and it's very easy to turn off a whole group of effects if you want to with just a couple of buttons.
Yeah. And same thing, getting comfortable with soloing tracks and soloing multiple tracks so that you can see what things sound like together. So like we were talking about before with getting the signal, not signal path, but the levels um, good, or getting good levels. Because if you, no matter how well you get the effects all in there, if you have things that are combining together and making your track spike out the roof, it's not going to sound good no matter what you play it through. So it's
Yeah.
important to get each signal individually leveled out well and playing nicely with everything else, whether it's in the stereo space or whether it's just like I said, panning things out into the stereo space, or whether it's about getting the levels down low enough because you're expecting something else in that same frequency range that's going to be boosting that signal up as well. Because you get constructive interference that can make two things that were perfectly well balanced before suddenly make the whole signal too loud.
And you know, you have different mixing situations where, like, I might want to just bring down all the guitar tracks,
Right.
and there's other situations where I might want to bring down an effect, like a reverb or a delay in any track that's using it.
Mhm.
Again, bus mixing is one way of consolidating a bunch of effects so that you can use one slider and bring the reverb down for everything.
Mhm.
But there's also, at least with Cakewalk, when I finally learned it, grouping. And you can group tracks, and that way, when you are sliding one up or down, the other ones that are grouped with it move up and down with it. And that can
Right.
come in real handy when you've got those parts in a song where you want to shift the volume on the music. You want to bring the vocals up for a second, you
Mhm.
bring the music behind the vocals, and then when it goes into the bridge, you want to shift that and pull the vocals back and bring the music up.
That's something that you can accomplish with automation as well, and that's where having it all on that one separate bus. If you do have it on a
Yeah,
separate bus and you have
what you
automation, you
don't
can just
want to
have it
do,
slide up and down.
you don't want to have to automate like 20 different tracks that
Right.
are making that sound. You want to be able to automate one that represents those 20 tracks,
Exactly.
or the 10 that are the music and the 10 that are the vocals, so that way you can bring 10 down, bring 10 up.
Yep. Gives you lots more flexibility. That's where having lots of faders is good, and
Yeah.
lots of different options.
And that's why it's nice nowadays that our faders, I mean, I do love old school sliders and knobs. I miss them. You know, I'd really love to use that digital mixer behind me,
Oh yeah.
but I do appreciate the options we get with digital mixers these days.
Mhm.
If the worst that I have to do is move them with my mouse,
Mhm.
so be it, because we have so much more power with our digital mixers these days,
Yeah. And the
especially with
thing
the
was,
automation.
we had the we have several of the boards with the motorized faders, the Personas Studio Lives, and we
Yeah, I
actually
know you get spoiled.
we get spoiled, but because of the fact that we were doing so many gigs and trying to do such a tight pack into the car to get all the stuff in, the mains, the subs, all the monitors, all the cables, the poles, everything, like getting all of that stuff in there, that the motorized faders become a liability if you don't have. I mean, if you get a road case that's big, the road case that would adequately protect a board with the motorized faders on the top is much larger than the board itself, and it would just take up way too much room in the car. You'd be like, you have to leave
Yeah.
two of the speakers behind in order to get all that in there. So we were not packing it quite that well, and like that way the faders become a liability where some of them might start bouncing or jittering on you,
Yeah.
and then you have a problem there. So what we started doing is we used the one that's just the rack mount, where it's all in the hard case, in the road case, so that you just you get there, you snap it open, and you can just plug in on the front all the XLRs, and you can
Yeah,
plug it right
and
across the
all
front.
your controls are being done software, right?
Right, and everything's
The,
being
the
all the
rack
mixing is
mount's
done
just
from the iPad.
basically playing it's the interface.
Exactly.
Yeah.
And that's why he can mix from anywhere in the crowd also. So he's just with the iPad, he can go to the back of the bar or the back of the field, or, if we're doing big events or whatever, he can be anywhere in the crowd, see what it sounds like over there, and make adjustments to get things better. And he has the access to all of the studio or all the monitor mixes as well, because we usually run 4 or 5 different monitor mixes as well for the vocalists up front and the instrumentalists.
Oh yeah, DJ The Reason's talking about this program. Waves does have a VST
Mhm.
that has that kind of grouping function.
Mhm.
I wanted to check it out actually last year. One of my friends recommended it, and it allows you to, like, group your tracks in such a way that it simplifies the whole mixing of multiple groups.
Nice.
My only argument would be is that I don't need the Waves plugin to do it. Once I learned how to group them in Cakewalk, where
Mhm.
you select the tracks, you pair them, but the fact that Waves also has additional tools when it comes to that grouping and mixing, it's definitely still worth looking at.
Yeah, vocal writer. Yeah,
Not
definitely
just
check that
for the
out.
grouping feature.
Mhm. Nice. Always interested in looking at new
Yeah,
software,
Vocal Rider
new
too.
VSTs. Hmm.
Yeah,
Yeah, get them in
actually,
there and try them out.
again, I'd like to see some of these in action. If any of you
Mhm.
guys have a really cool VST that you think is worth checking out, and you want to come on one night and show it in action, would love it.
Yeah, absolutely.
That's
That would
how
be cool.
that's how I find my VSTs these days.
Hmm.
It's kind of hard to have the time to go out there and it's like looking for guitar patches or sounds these days. There's so many of them that the only way you can really sort them out is with a little help from your friends.
Exactly. Rolo's talking about Amplitude. I remember having something
Oh
with
yeah.
Amplitude a while back. Might have even been not the iRig, but before the iRig, there was same idea, but I think it was called the Sonic port. Maybe I don't remember who made that, but
Is that
it was
a tube sim, Rolo? Tube simulator?
AmpSim. Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah. It's got all kinds of options in there for pedals and amps. I believe pedals, amps,
Yeah.
cabinets. You
These
can add
days,
all that stuff.
it's funny how guitarists have really kind of finally hit their stride with digital with all these amp sims and I talk to more and more guitarists these days who actually do depend on their tone through plugins and through their computer, not a floor pedal,
Hmm.
which 10 years ago wasn't the case. I mean, that's how fast and far we've come in the last decade.
It's pretty crazy how fast it all moved along. Yeah,
Yeah, the
and
amp sims in the last 10 years have just become phenomenal.
yeah. So the first one that I got, and whether it was Amplitude or basically the Sonic port, the small thing that I had, was you're able to just plug in your instrument directly into this, and then plug this directly into the iPad and go from there. And again, it was before the iRig had come around, or at least I hadn't seen anything with the iRig back then. But it was kind of like the first steps on the path to getting where we are now, and it's very cool how you can basically do full studio everything from a phone. And again, I'm not that well versed in the phone. That's one thing that we should actually do together, is look at the phone more, just to be able to help people who are using mobile more, because of the fact that we're
Yeah.
both very much PC guys. So focusing on the PC side of everything, if I just look more at how to do things in the phone side, it'll help me appreciate what people are looking at and what they're going through when they're doing that stuff. So I'll start taking more of a look at that. I probably
Yeah,
wouldn't
so if
do
any
my
of you
actual
are
work in there, but
shredding on your phones
yeah, yeah,
and you want to show off like what you're doing,
yeah,
again,
absolutely.
hop on in, show
Yeah.
us what you got.
And things like part editing, for example. We were talking about, like, if I do a part and I'm adding bass to something, and if I can get through 95% of the part fine, and I don't stop at any point throughout, I can fix those little spots, right? Like I can go in and I can edit here and there, and I've never seen someone, the workflow of somebody doing that on mobile, if they even do that on mobile. Whereas on the PC, it's something that I do all the time, and it's one of those things that it's important to get comfortable with being able to put a slice here and
I have
do a
seen
patch.
I have seen some do it on mobile.
Mhm.
Some of them are very comfortable with it. Like Dallas can rip through mobile
Mhm.
as fast as he can on a computer.
Mhm.
Actually, probably faster because he's so used to it.
Mhm.
But I do notice like there's a lot of sometimes extra work, or in some cases just limitations.
Mhm.
Touch screen is not intuitive. You got to know what buttons are. There's no tool tips. There's nothing
There's a
nothing
difference between a single
indicating.
tap, a double tap, or a hold. Yeah,
Yeah, a
all
hold.
that type of thing.
That's where it really starts to irk me when you have a function that you don't even know you can do until you hold in the right place, and oh, that's how I copy, or it feels like we've gone backwards with
Mhm.
mobile interfaces, with mobile operating systems. We've got these great operating systems that we've built over the last 30, 40 years, where the interface itself is intuitive enough that all programs kind of work the same. And then all of a sudden, mobile operating systems come into play and completely flip that over. And not everybody moves to an operating system that the ones who never use them on their computers. You've got a lot of new musicians who only know how to do it on mobile platforms thanks to BandLab.
Mhm.
But at the same time, they're at a disadvantage when it comes to going on the computer. A lot of the mobile users don't even want a computer, let
Mhm.
alone for music. They don't want a computer, period. They're happy with their phones, and um,
That is
they
one
don't
place where,
want to
though,
use computer music software.
if they didn't have access to BandLab, they might not have ever done music or done
True.
as much with music. So in that way, I definitely respect and enjoy the fact that BandLab does what it does and has gotten people who would otherwise not have been participating, got them all into the fold, because that's great that everybody can get in and work together, no matter how much, you don't have to have massive studio equipment in your house in order to be part of the fun. You can just have your phone and just do whatever, which I think is fantastic.
Yeah, BandLab has done a great job of bridging that mobile desktop music making. And really, we've seen the results. I've heard tracks where if you didn't tell me what they made it on, I would have assumed they made it in a studio.
Yeah, that's how good it's getting on the phones. Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah. If you got the right hardware, the phone itself is not really the limitation most times. It's your plugs going into it. Getting a guitar into a phone, it's actually almost the same concept as getting it into a computer, but you got to have the right interface. On a phone, the only kind of plug that's going to be of real use to you going forward is the lightning port. You can get those analog iRigs, but unless you have an old phone that has a 1/8-inch jack, which none of the new ones do, and all the new ones are trying to push people to Bluetooth, but they do have a lightning port for important things like plugging your guitar or a microphone into your phone. If you do get a Focusrite with a lightning port, plug it into a phone, you're getting the same vocal preamp that you would if you had that Focusrite plugged in a computer. You're going to get the same sound.
Yep.
And with BandLab on the phone, you'll get the same recording.
Like DJs mentioned in their collaborations or bring people together on BandLab. And absolutely. I mean, that's, for me, that was like the whole selling point. As far as once I started with BandLab, I started just jumping into songs that had need bass, hashtag needs bass, and started looking through songs that were there. So I found songs that didn't have bass on them, and I wanted to try to put bass on, so I did. And I wasn't sure how it would go because I didn't know the whole community thing and all. So I would post it and see what would happen. And I don't want anyone to be mad that I jumped in on the thing, but hey, they're asking for bass.
Well,
so
when they ask,
definitely asking for it.
So. It's no question. I didn't start getting anybody forking any of my tracks till I put vocals needed, and all of a sudden, boom! Turns out there's plenty of people actually wanting to sing.
Yeah, and once I started getting good feedback on what I was doing, then I was like, I was much more. I would much more easily just say, I want to fork this, I want to fork that, I want to fork this, and I just started jumping on anything that was forkable, taking the fact that it was forkable as an invitation itself. As long as I'm not trying to shoehorn something into a piece that doesn't need more parts. That's the other thing, is sometimes people you have too many parts in a song, and you just want to step back and be like, there's nothing I can really add to that to make it any better. It's already full, essentially.
Yeah, that's one thing I would suggest to everybody is, when you are looking at things to collab on BandLab, recognize when a song doesn't need more tracks, when it is in a good space, because everybody wants to be part of a song too, and I think sometimes that can become a problem, because I've heard tracks where, like, I hear the good tracks in what I'm listening to, and then I hear a few extra tracks in there that just don't serve the purpose of the song. They don't add anything to it. They in some cases, they actually take away from the good tracks that already are there, and
they're getting buried now.
The good tracks get buried, and all of a sudden you've got just a couple of tracks where you've got somebody just trying to say, I'm part of the song, and I would rather not be part of a song than be part of a song and fuck the song up.
Or make multiple iterations. I mean, there's no reason why that has to be the only version of a song when it's forkable. If if it's a forkable project that's already there and it already has parts on it, rather than going to that last fork that already has, it's already fully baked and has everything in it already. You could go back to an earlier forkable version and say, hey, what if I added to this part? And then see what it would evolve into from there.
If it feels like you're kind of fighting with other tracks because the revision has so much going on, it's not a bad idea to go back in the history and try to find the cleanest version you can. Turn off tracks. I mean, sometimes it's just a matter of like getting back to the core tracks,
right,
and figure out what you're going to add to it. And if what you're adding sounds good with just the core tracks, chances are it's going to sound good when you turn everything back on. If it sounds too busy after when you turn it back on, it may not be what you're adding to it. It may be that, like, what's clashing is some of the things that were added after that revision.
Yeah, and the other thing is going back to some of those earlier revisions, you can go back there and actually fully reimagine the song. Even you can do it in a completely different style, or double time, or change,
I've done
change
that.
any aspect, have it, and totally remix it and make it something completely different. And that way, it's not just a, another version of the song. It's the way that you could see it as competing with the original, not original, but the other more full version of the song, or whether you just see it as something that's completely different. You say, okay, well, I saw that, but I was thinking of it more this way, and take your own vision to it. I like
Yeah,
that.
I've done that.
Mhm. Yep. But yeah, it's just important to understand or to recognize when a song can use more, or doesn't need more, or can't possibly take another thing. And same thing happened, we were talking about with effects. Like if you, getting back towards simplifying, I get back
Oh,
towards trying to
it
get
can
as
get
clean as
even
possible.
worse. Yeah,
It can get even worse, get so muddy
when
and
it
like,
comes to mixing
yeah,
and what you can possibly do good or bad over there, that's even trickier than just adding a instrument track to a song. Because with mixing, you've got a lot of people who, just because you can turn effects on does not mean you should. And it it's good to experiment. If you're new to it, by all means, turn things on, listen to how they sound, try them. But at some point, step back, listen to what you're trying to accomplish in your mix, and realize that a good mix does not need a dozen effects turned on to make a good mix.
same thing
If
for presets. It's easy
you
to get locked into that whole, I have my preset and I just always, when
and
I
I
sing, I
and
do
never
this. And when I
change
play
them
guitar, I do
exactly.
that, and you never change it. It's
Yeah, yeah,
important, like
yeah. Don't
having that
don't get
preset to
into
get
a don't get into a preset ditch.
right. For me, the preset is good for the preview. Like I can flip it on real quick and see what it sounds like with my usual settings, quote unquote. And then, okay, if that sounds great, then fine. But I want to start from the cleanest sound possible and only add the elements that I need to, or that I want. And like add that little bit of reverb, add the, if there's things that are going to change the character of the sound, but not just slather things and effects just because I have all these effects to do it with.
If you ask yourself, for every effect that you turn on while you're mixing something, what is the purpose of this effect? And am I getting what I expect of that purpose? You don't just add effects just because you're told to, just because somebody says, oh, you need to use this or this or this, and that's the way that you do it. When you add it, listen to it. Does it do what you're looking to do? Never mind that somebody told you this is the way to add compression to a mix and it'll just sound great.
Yep.
Does it do what you're expecting it to do? Because a
And that's
lot of
where,
times people turn on a whole bunch of effects, or they go use one of those presets that might have 5 or 6 effects in its chain.
right.
And 4 of those effects aren't even doing anything to help the track. In
Exactly.
some
You got a
cases, they
de-esser, a
might be making the
denoiser.
track sound like shit.
Exactly. That was the other thing is, one of the other things I liked about presets is find a preset that is like like if you're trying to play metal bass, for example, you find a preset that has some of those aspects to it. You bring it up, but then turn off all of the effects in that chain except one, and
get
just see what
familiar.
it sounds like turning
Yeah.
that one on and off,
Get
so that you can
familiar with
see,
the effects in that preset.
yeah, and the settings that they use to get that sound. Because, oh, okay, they're using this, they're using this filter, but why are they using this filter? Or they're using, this EQ on here, but why? And how do they have it? Like they have the whole bottom scooped out, or they have this, or like, you have to look
Yeah,
at how it's configured.
I've noticed on a couple of their presets where they'll have multiple compressors,
Right.
different places in the chain.
Yep, doing different things. Sure.
You'll have a compressor at the beginning of the chain, and then you'll have a compressor somewhere in the middle or at the end. I've even seen a few where multiple reverbs, and I'm
Sure.
like, what? Well, I can see a scenario for it, but
One that I liked in particular
not
was a plate
not
reverb,
good
like
practice.
a good solid plate reverb on the vocal, and then a room reverb to kind of capture it into the room, because
Yeah,
the
but
plate,
not on the same effects chain. Like,
well, that's the thing. This was on the same effects chain. It was putting one and then the other, and having the one drive into the other kind of changed the way, because you can.
Do you mean like if you were using it as a pre-reverb versus a
Sure.
post? Yeah,
Yeah.
there you go. That
Mhm.
would make sense if you're trying to get that kind of effect where the like reverb going in on the signal pre versus the post reverb. There is a difference there.
Yeah, and it kind of gave a
And
little bit
having two of them
more of a tail to notes, on its own, like without actually artificially adding delay or a different kind of reverb. Like the plate just had more, I don't know, it kind of just made the note ring more into the other reverb, which it then tied it in like the glue to the rest of the room. But again, that was a specific kind of situation, and I wouldn't normally, as you said, I wouldn't normally recommend putting multiple reverbs on a chain, but I did investigate it just to see why they would have that and what did it sound like. So, that's where it's important to, again, go through those presets, and you don't have to go through all of them and study them or whatever, but you find one that you like, figure out why it is that you like it or what it is that each effect in that chain is doing to your sound, so that you can use each of those effects individually rather than having to buy the whole package of, I use these 5 as a preset and that's all it is. Like I turn that on and then I'm done. Because you're also using a lot more overhead than you might necessarily need. If you only needed one of those pedals, you could have just one.
You're always at a better advantage if you learn to tweak your presets. Sound sculpting is as important as songwriting these days. And when you can adjust your effects, when you can adjust your synth sounds or your guitar tone, sound sculpting is how artists actually get their own sounds these days, how they become distinct and unique.
Yep. And for when I want to just
or they have a voice that nobody else has. That's the only other way.
Yeah. One thing I like is with the bass, I have one preset that I use that's nothing but the BL1176 compressor, and I just have it dialed in just a certain way. So
of all of them there, that's actually the one that I think is the most useful.
Yeah, and if I'm just, if I recorded it a little too low, or if during my playing I was a little too quiet at times and loud at other times, it just really does a nice job of bringing everything up, and nothing is overpowering. So
it balances everything back out.
It does a good job of balancing it out. So when I'm just trying to hear my bass line in context with a song that I just put in, I haven't done anything yet with it, I haven't tweaked anything out, I just recorded it, and now I want to hear it back, I'll just throw that one 1176 on it and listen back to it, see where it sounds, and then usually a lot of times I'll just leave it on there. But a lot of times I can just get rid of it and it doesn't do all that much. All I'm doing with it mostly is it's got a good I have a good option to just basically be able to dial it up or down, the gain, and have it bring the signal up if I'm too low or bring it down if I'm too high, and without having to mess with the master fader on the track.
Yeah, it's kind of nice. Compression is something that I used to be so against in the early days of digital, where it was a mess. And more times back then, when they were talking compression, they weren't talking about the kind of compression we deal with now. They were talking about like file compression, and it was like bad. And we didn't have these compression tools in the analog days that were so useful like we do now. Right. Today's compressors are like magic in some cases when it comes to pulling up that noise that's hiding way down there and pulling back that noise that's hitting too hard against the ceiling and magically just fixing a track.
Exactly. And a lot of times in the
cleaning up a splashy drum, a loud guitar.
Mm-hmm. And if you do have problems with the compressor, a lot of times it's because somebody has the settings, just dialed way wrong. Like, okay, the attack is fine, but the release is set way wrong, so it's keeping everything squashed way longer than it should, or whatever. Seeing the way some of the VSTs show you how hard the compressor is working, I really like ones that do that. Like
BandLab has a good indicator on what it's doing.
Yep, and that's where, like, whichever programs you're using, it's important. Like, that's one of the things that to me really helps you get things dialed in, because you want to have it dialed in to where it's it's doing a little bit of work here and there in those spots where it really needs to, but it's not like working hard all the time on everything. So it's good to see what's going on with the actual VSTs as well.
Yeah, I really love the visualizers we get with today's VSTs. That's another thing we kind of take for granted. In the old days, you had to do the listening test and turn the dial and listen to feel the effects out. Now you get these visual indicators sometimes that, like, you can literally see the problems. Again, when I was watching Jason, hey Jason, good to see you. He's home. Nice. When I was watching him last night, and the different, he's got all these new plugins to me, so it's always nice seeing those visualizers for these plugins that I don't typically use. And like the Parallax, as he was working on his track and he was working on the bass track, and I love the way it just shows the way the effect keeps the sound in a certain spectrum, and you can see the curve. You can see where any of your sound is pushing off the edges, and
real-time analysis. Yeah,
the compressor's just showing you, like, I'm keeping this here so that it doesn't blow up.
It's good stuff.
Yeah,
And it's not just
Parallax,
compressors, but compressors are magic.
Isotope. Certain companies really have what makes their plugins so great, and both of those, I would say, anybody out there, Isotope, um, who's the ones, Nectar.
Yeah,
Iso-
subtractive EQ was
oh,
was that
those are the
Retools?
Reaper. Yeah, those are the
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
retools, which are free. So, like, by
Yeah,
all means, go check
that was
those out because
that one was
they
amazing.
give them
That
away.
was you can get rid of background noise out of a recording pretty well just by if you have any section of that recording that has just the background noise, you can basically have it listen. It makes an EQ sweep of what that is. You can tell it get rid of that, and it'll floor that out, and really does a good job of
Oh,
getting it out
and
of the.
actually, their EQ is awesome too. It's
Mhm.
very intuitive, easy to pick up, and if you're comfortable with EQs, you can jump right on it. If you do have Reaper, you get these effects. You get these plugins with Reaper. But if you don't have Reaper, you want these effects because they
And that
do
was
a
the
good job of
REA
what they
tools,
do.
right? That was
Yeah,
the
the
download.
retools.
Yeah, and that had the subtractive EQ was the one that I was really interested there. Which one was it that we were looking at for?
I just love the name. You call
Yeah,
something reefer. Okay, I'm sold.
yeah, exactly. Which one did we grab for Blue Cat? I think it was one of.
Oh,
Not sure if it
Blue
was an
Cat.
EQ or if it was.
Yeah, Blue Cat has a couple of different suites of plugins, but the one that I've used the most is their mixing. They have a mixing and mastering suite that does a lot of the work for you. The only time I really use it is when I've got a mix that I feel is close to what I want, but
Mhm.
it still has nuances that I can't quite get through
Whether it's
my
the
mixer.
cohesion or.
Yeah, usually if I use Blue Cat, it's to just give it additional glue
Right.
or to fix some low end or high end that I couldn't fix through bus mixing,
Mhm.
or to clean the bus. Because one problem with bus mixing is it can get a little muddy. You push a bunch of tracks through a bus and you're running, like, say, a reverb or something on that bus. The tracks can kind of get muddy when they're all together in that bus. So, like, Blue Cat has a couple of presets that are specifically designed to clean bus mud. It's called demud. Like, it does a fantastic job. It takes that mud out and it makes the bus sound clear again.
Now, since it takes the mud out, instead of calling it D-mud, maybe they should call it like track wash. Take it to the track wash.
It does.
And get
It
that
does
mud out
feel
of
like
there.
it does that.
It has to. Spray it down, get the mud out of there.
Yeah, and for anybody who's like a beat maker or looking for that kind of bass enhanced, you know how BandLab has their fire choice and bass enhanced advanced mixing.
Yeah.
With the Blue Cat, there's a whole category of different types of mixing approaches that
Right. I remember
will
we looked
get you
at that. That's what it
better
was.
better results.
That was the one thing I remembered about it the most was that listing of being able to basically preview what it would be like if you mastered it with this style or this style or this style, like all the different options of how it
Yeah.
would sound.
And the
Very
nice
cool.
thing with them is, like, again, the visualizers are some of the most incredible visualizers of any plugin that I've seen.
I thought I just heard something fall down over here, but no. So we're good.
Wasn't at Ange's, was it?
Nope, don't think so. But we're probably going to jump to something else in a few minutes here.
Yeah, she should be getting the dads rolled up. And Daltonus, thank you for sending that email to Ange. Much appreciated.
Yep, absolutely. Good stuff there. But yeah, we still got a few minutes left though. Why don't we do a little bit of music again?
I'm
How about?
still on that progression we started with.
Yeah, exactly. That was the one.
See, now the B doesn't work because I messed with the F. So I went from the C, and instead of going to the F, which would have been which doesn't sound as good, I went to the I raised the F up. just to give it that.
And now it feels like it wants to go somewhere else. Yeah.
Now it feels like. Well, I guess it could go to the B.
Mm-hmm.
The B needs to get raised. There we go.
B major, yeah.
Shit, I think I like that better in E than A.
Yeah. I like that.
It resolves nice on the B if you do it that way. I mean, I'm definitely not in E. I'm in some modal shift for sure.
Yeah. And you're borrowing, but that's good.
Yeah, I'm borrowing all over the place. That D is a borrow. G. C is normal. This is a borrow. This F sharp.
F sharp minor?
I don't know what to call that.
We're using F sharp, A, and what?
The F sharp is a C F sharp A.
So that is using the F sharp as a minor 7 flat 5. So that is like a half diminished.
That's a diminished.
So that would be basically if you were doing the key of G, let's say, that would be that dreaded 7 chord hanging out right behind it on the F sharp.
Well, technically, this would be G major.
Yep.
I mean, because it is a E minor to start.
Exactly.
This is an
exactly.
E minor.
And that's where.
This is what changes it. Going to this D major is the beginning of some.
The D major, yeah.
The G's natural, C's natural, and this F sharp is a mind fuck.
That's the minor 7 flat 5. Yeah.
And then this is the total mind fuck. The B is like, but it's nice.
Yeah.
It's nice this way.
Mm-hmm.
It resolves very nicely with E. Better than A.
And that's the thing is with guitar, E is one of those natural keys to play in, whether it's E minor, especially because that's the lowest note you get on a regular guitar is the E, and the highest note on the highest string is also an E.
Yeah,
So
E is my go-to scale anytime I try to play with a guitar. I assume they're playing in E before any other key.
Yeah. It's a nice place to start. I always like starting in, let's say, G or A, just to, I have big hands anyway, so like starting in the larger areas down there, and if I'm going to work my way up, get up to the smaller frets up here later, but having those big stretches down there is comfortable for me. But other people, they wouldn't like to play, like F is one of those dreaded keys. Like if somebody playing an F major, they don't want to get all the way down there to the first fret and big stretches.
See, when I play an F, I always like, I purposely invert in a way so that F is nice and easy for me. If I start with first inversion, everything I want to go to is right next to each other. So it's like. I mean, that's almost no hand movement.
And that's what I like about those kinds of progressions where you're using the different, not intervals, but the different inversions. Thank you.
Well, if I tried that with a different inversion, like say starting with the root, like. doesn't feel as natural. Same progression, but starting on the a normal no inversion. And then I'm trying to go to the. Okay. Doesn't sound as nice though.
Yeah, doesn't flow the same way.
It doesn't really feel like it has a direction starting that way.
And that's actually where if you start with the high one, or sorry, the inverted one, like you were saying, you start with the inversion, then you do the other two chords, and then when you play the final F, you do the low one, like the.
Oh
the
yes, yes.
so landing on
I do like
that.
actually resolving on. I've done that. Yeah, like. It kind of makes it feel like it's rising a little.
Yep, or you could do it the other way, where you start the low and then those two, and then end on the high one, so you can get either direction of motion.
And I kind of helped it by like bringing down my bass.
Yeah, exactly.
But yeah, finishing with the first inversion has a nice resolution.
Feels homey. A little bit of F.
But that's always a fun scale to play in for writing those kind of yeah, I could have done my world song with that key. I've got one that's like and that's another one where the third chord it's the same chord both times except one's going this way and one's going this way just to give that kind of swaying.
And it doesn't feel like it's the same thing all the time. That's the other good thing about the inversions.
Yeah, exactly. Which could also be Teenage Wasteland.
Yes, it can.
It's all in how you play it.
It absolutely is. And there's so many different ways you can play it, and so many different things. Like you could be playing it, and three different people will come up with three different. Hey, is that? Hey, is that? Like each one has a different song that they think it is, because it can remind everybody of everything.
That's why I don't, in the old days, I was like, oh, I can't play this now because this was another song. Until I realized that there is no such thing as a chord progression that hasn't been played sometime, somewhere, and songs don't own chord progressions.
Right.
Musicians do, and what they do with them, how they use them. I can take any chord progression that was used in a song and play it in a way that sounds nothing like the way that song did it, and therefore it is no longer that song.
Exactly. And that's one of those things. If you change it enough, and it doesn't have to be that you're purposely trying to change it that much,
well,
but it's more just
technically
using
you
your
don't
vision
have
to
to
change
change
it to whatever you want.
Knocking on Heaven's Door is like 10 other songs, and none of them actually changed a thing. They just play the same strummy chords for like 4 or 5 minutes. The only difference is different words.
Yep, different words, different melody lines, sure.
And a few of them were at least considerate and had a different part once in a while, because Knocking on Heaven's Door doesn't change. Like it literally plays the same damn chords the whole song, and it's the least desired song for me to play live. My band used to, one of the few covers we would do, and I was like, nope. I don't
Would you
want
do
to
Flock
play
of
this.
Seagulls? I ran.
Oh yeah, and that one doesn't actually change either.
Because that one's easy. That was one. Forget what
Shit,
movie it was.
I was tempted to make my hair like that at one point.
The Flock of Seagulls style. No
It
way,
was cool
man.
for a minute.
For a minute. I never had hair to pull that off for sure. And I don't even think I could pull off a wig like that. I mean, it would make me like 7.5 feet tall. So that would be a problem.
I know. You wouldn't be able to walk through the doors without messing your hair up.
I'd be walking through like, brrr. I'd be like brushing the top of the door frame with the mohawk on the way in.
But at this point,
don't
I think
that
I
would
could.
work.
I think I could pull that hairstyle off with my beard
Nice.
if
There
I
you go.
keep it up.
Yep. Got to grow it in all the way. Good stuff.
Oh yeah, reason. I enjoy playing cover songs too,
Yeah, me too.
which is weird for me because up until 2 years ago, I was anti-cover.
Mhm.
Only did 2 or 3 in my old band over 20 years. Never wanted to cover songs, and it actually hindered my songwriting because in the last 2 years, I've learned over 1,000 songs, and it's helped me to start seeing songwriting structure and
Exactly.
arrangement.
Common themes. Yeah,
Covering songs helps teach you how to make songs.
absolutely. And that's one of those things for me. Like I was saying before, you shouldn't be on stage just noodling around or trying to just do stuff that you don't necessarily know. But with one of the groups that I
Unless
play
you're
with,
really confident.
with one of the groups I play with, we do it all the time because the guitar player will literally just start into a song and nobody else on stage knows what we're playing. He'll just start into it and we all just jump on board. So like I just,
Well,
I follow what I hear and
some
we
of the
go.
people you play with are professional noodlers. So
Yeah, exactly.
they
Exactly.
can noodle all night.
And they know what they need to feed me noodle wise. Like if they can feed me just a little noodles to like get me on track with what we're doing, especially like if he wants to go into a solo, for example, if when I'm playing with Joey, for example, if he wants to go into a solo and he wants me to still cover the progression as we're getting into it, if he's not sure if I know that we're going into a solo and he doesn't want to train wreck it, he can just play the chords for me once, like while watching me, just like blah 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 blah. And then when he comes back, then he knows I got it, and then he can just launch off into a solo, and I just keep that running around for him. I can just keep going. It doesn't matter what the chords are. It doesn't matter if it's different than we did last time. He can modulate up a step or whatever. Like I'm watching
As
him.
long as you know what key you're kind of playing in.
Yep, and I follow my ear is the thing. Like knowing that okay, this is this, this is that, and I can find my way where I need to very quickly, which helps also.
That's your saving grace is when you're not in key real fast.
Yeah.
Me,
and sometimes it's just step back. Sometimes it's throw a noodle in there and find your way home.
Yeah, I pick up on it when I hit a bad note, and that kind of helps me to narrow in on the key. But I'm constantly like trying to hit that root key, like where's the bounce on what? Because with guitarists, like typically I'll have a guitarist in here and they're riffing away, and I'm trying to find that like dun 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 that one note that
works all
that
through,
goes with the riff so that I can start to figure out the rest.
Yeah.
Because a lot of guitarists don't actually sit there and explain what the hell they're doing. It's like, and
that's where
there's no explanation. I'm doing a 1, 3, 4, 5. You're very considerate about it, like as a bassist, but some of you guitarists need to.
In a lot of cases, I'm watching the hands too, and not to necessarily see that. Okay, I can see every note that they're hitting, but if I can see, the claw, like we talk about, if I can see what claw they're using,
you're lucky that you can translate that and recognize, like, oh, he's on the 3rd fret.
I can see I can see that he's on the 3rd fret, and that's something that anybody can see, whether they play guitar or not. You can see what area he's in. Yeah, that's one thing you can't tell by eye. But
the other bitch these days is so many of these guitarists we're working with on here.
Drop A.
They're in all sorts of. Fortunately, they know what tuning they're in, so at least. If he says drop A, then I know that top string starts with an A.
Mm-hmm. Yep, it's important. But that's where I like. For me, it's also
the guitarist might not know any other note they're hitting, but if they know they're tuning, at least that helps to visualize what I'm seeing.
And for me, a lot of times it's more the relative motion. Like if we're doing a song that modulates up a whole step, for example, like, we're playing in A and we're going to go up to B, like for this other part. So we're in A, we're in A.
Frets up.
Exactly. I'm watching his hands and I will see him move up that 2 frets and I'll just move up with him. So that like, it doesn't matter. He doesn't have to talk about it beforehand. Like I'll feel it coming anyway, because I feel that change in the song coming. But if I didn't know the song and I'm just watching and he knows to like, just make sure that that he catches my eye before he does it. And then like, okay. And then we slide up and he slides up, I slide up and we move together. And that way you don't have to necessarily talk it over beforehand or know exactly what's going on. We can just kind of get into it and do it. And it's largely just because you're following your ear
and if you actually get
what's going on.
comfortable playing with certain musicians and you know their style, sometimes even if you've never played that part with them, it becomes somewhat predictable, because between where you expect them to go based on their style and based on what's a good direction for that chord, it's almost process of elimination.
And it's also based on the fact that most songs have a dependable cyclical structure. Like it's going to do a 1-4-5, or it's going to do a 3-6-2-5-1, or whatever. It's going to keep in that part of the song, at least, is going to stay in that same structure. So once I hear it come back around the first time, it's like I kind of already got it locked in as a loop in my head. Okay, I got those 4. And then when we're going to do a change, I'll probably hear the drummer like build up or something's coming. And then when I hear them land on that next note, I can kind of get a feel. Is it higher than where we were? Is it lower than where we were? And I'll just jump, leap of faith to where I think it should be. And I'm usually right. But if I'm not, it's close enough where I can work that wrong note, even if it is, into a bam, 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 like, put it into a little phrase to get to where the note is. Because I know what key we're in still, like from where we started. So I know which notes I should be using to find my way home. And if they play something that's out of key, I should recognize that too. Where if we're playing all white notes,
or if they're trying to do something experimental. I mean, I will say like 80% of what I write, I want to be somewhat predictable. I want it to follow the general rules of good sound. But it's a fifth of the time, it's nice to throw in an unexpected chord, an unexpected shift. I've spent like the last 25 years really trying to find those pockets of opportunity where, ooh, didn't expect this, did you? And
the right spot to throw in the surprise.
Whether it's a chord change or a hit, a bounce, a tempo change. I mean, sometimes that's all it takes is I'll fuck with your ears right now. We're not cutting the time in half. We're cutting the time in 2/3.
There you go. And everything's like, whoa, everybody trying to dance, like, fall apart on the dance floor.
Then you're going into like progressive jazz.
That's actually what my buddy Mike's band.
Or Dream Theater. I mean,
they love doing that.
They used to do some crazy shit.
They would change the timing up at certain spots, or like, it's going to be, okay, 3 hits, and then the next one is 5 hits, and the next one is 7 hits. It's like, if you don't know the song, you should be on the dance floor, bouncing back and forth, and all of a sudden you're like, because you don't know what just happened.
And if you jam with someone who is, because the reason why I'm like that is because the guitarist I jammed with for over a decade in the 90s was like that. So it kind of rubbed off on me like, oh, I want to be predictable up to here, and ooh, let's throw this chord in just to shift the mood, and now I can do a key change or a tempo change. The whole purpose of those random chaotic chords is to open up that opportunity for, this isn't what you expected. It's not your typical riff.
Right.
And there's nothing wrong with typical riffs. They are the bread and butter of music. Like 90% of the music that gets sold out there is built off of typical riffs.
Yeah.
Because they sound good.
Yep. There's a reason they're popular, right? And that's the thing, is they didn't become popular by sounding awful. So that's why there's, and like
then you get those composers who do soundtrack work in like horror movie and shit like that, and
they get to use all those ugly sounds.
Yeah,
wherever
they have the opportunity to really experiment out of the commercial sound box.
Yep.
And then sometimes people hear that and they say, damn, why aren't we using that in commercial sound? And next thing you know, you got a band who all of a sudden starts to do that.
Yep. And that's where the diminished chord comes in.
You saw that in the 90s a lot. The way music was kind of transforming in the 90s, you saw that blend between Hollywood songwriting and band and radio songwriting and the experimentation that was going on both sides, not just in like grunge or like metal, but in pop and all the genres through the 90s were starting to try to come up with something different because the 80s kind of wore out a lot of the usual recipes.
Yeah.
And we had all these synthesizers now and samplers and all these new sounds to make stuff with, but they needed to experiment more with these modal shifts and things. You started hearing a lot more melodic. Minor became a huge thing in the 90s,
I was trying to think of what
and
key
it
Axel
hasn't
F was in.
stopped.
There you go.
I used to know
That feels
this
right.
one.
Yeah, me too.
Louis, if Louis was here, he could whip that one right out his ass.
I'm thinking F sharp, maybe.
Yeah, you got it.
Somewhere around there. But yeah, well, as soon as you started talking about the synth stuff back then, that's what jumped out to me.
Oh, there was a couple of them. That was Harold Faltermeyer, right? Who did Axel F? I think it was Faltermeyer.
It could be. I'm not entirely sure.
And then
I remembered that I didn't know anything else.
The guy
by the
who did
person.
the Miami Vice theme, he was really awesome too.
Yeah, that was always good one too.
Jan Hammer. Jan Hammer.
Nice. Yeah, DJ likes the Axel F melody too. Yep. Melody's amazing. It's good stuff. And that's one of those where you recognize that you can pull that line, just that one line out, and you recognize, and that's where you get a good hook. Like that's a good hook where you can just recognize that immediately anywhere. That's where you know you're onto something.
Oh yeah, that song literally stands out on its own because of that one little riff right there. I mean,
it doesn't have to be super complicated.
Others can play it and incorporate it into their songs, but unless they're really sneaky with it, people are going to listen to it and say, "Oh, he just did Axel F."
Yep. And that's where sometimes you could throw it in as a tease, even in another song, right? Like you're doing something else entirely, but it happens to be in that key, or you're coming through that chord or something, and you just throw that in there as a little bonus.
I see that as like an homage.
Exactly. Yep.
There's nothing wrong with incorporating things that you love in music into your music and paying tribute like that.
Exactly. No, I still want to find it though.
I used to play it with two hands.
Yeah. So close.
See, I actually wrote something kind of based off of that. That's why, like the whole F. Because it is F sharp minor, right? Like.
Yeah. I'm even thinking this is F sharp minor pentatonic.
See, and that's one way you could play it, and it doesn't. It sounds like Axel F, but it doesn't.
It's got enough in there to almost be recognizable. Somebody be going, "Oh, what is that? I know that's from somewhere." Just pulling that one element. Yeah. Dark and happy. Yeah, exactly.
Yeah, you don't have to pull a lot out of it to get something cool.
Definitely. I like it. And that's where, again, just pulling nuggets of whatever. Could be anything. But that's where the different chords, and again, pulling
Well,
yourself out of your comfort zone is important too, for playing in
that
chords that you don't
that's a
normally
good
use. Or
that's a good exercise to do one night, where like make a song based on a certain song, because we
Mhm.
kind of just did right there. So,
Exactly.
it's just find that element in the song that you want to incorporate into your song.
Mhm.
Pick a song that you really like. Pick an element of that song, whether it's
Mhm.
a certain chord, a certain melody. Pick the part of it that you really like and find a way to incorporate it into your own song.
Exactly. And that's when you're really taking the stuff that you like and incorporating it and getting it ingrained into your style.
Well, that's
You're
like
building
saying
your style.
I'm going to write a horror novel in the style of Stephen King.
Sure.
And as long as I don't call it Christine and it's not about a car.
Or Pet Cemetery. Yeah, there's a couple of names you got to avoid, but yeah, as long as you avoid those, you can do that. Maybe it's about a truck instead of a car,
Well,
or
a
a
car
motorcycle,
cemetery where we go to bury our trucks.
or a pet with wheels that goes crazy. No, maybe not that one. That's more sci-fi, I think, but that's okay.
Yeah.
Now, the other question is, which other key do you like? I mean, we like C, we like G, we like F, because those are all on the easiest side of the keyboard. The A and the E are also not bad. The B flat.
Well, the B flat, the B minor has been the one that I've been really
Nice. Related to the
that
D major, yeah.
well, and getting used to guitarists, especially all these guitarists that are doing drop B. It's been a scale that I've been.
Nice.
That's my new favorite minor scale.
Nice. Yeah, I like it.
And then I go
That's a good one.
back to I do this fucked up G thing. And then it goes in. Yeah. That's the duet I've been working on for over 20 years.
Nice, nice. And that's where the drums kick in.
Yeah, that's where the drums actually lightning, thunder, drums, a whole bunch of shit.
We have a recommendation from DJ for G, D, E, and A melodies.
Oh, G,
All
D,
good.
E, and A. G. E. And
Probably all four of those keys. Any which
Oh.
one of the keys. Not necessarily all together,
A. Actually,
but
I'm
you could use them all
thinking
together.
of it like that.
Yeah.
The
I'm thinking of it like if you're thinking of it with the A major, the G would kind of be a diminished, I think, is the issue.
The A major works.
Mhm.
The E to A major, A minor doesn't. Although I'm trying to play it backwards now.
Mm-hmm. So many different ways to do it. And it could be backwards, it could be forwards, it could be upside down. Any which way works. Whatever feels right is the important thing.
Well, or you can play that dice game and just kind of roll
That's
with
true.
roll with the changes.
Got the Yahtzee right here. First question would be use 2 dice to tell what key it's in, right?
See, now that would be, for that progression, that would be my go-to. Would be the G to the D and the E. All of those are nice and natural, and then I would go to the C. And there's at least 3 or 4 songs I can think of that
Yeah,
that go with that.
exactly. Now, some of them also would do that same progression for the first time around, but the second time around,
I would go to the C the second time.
they just go
instead of
right to the
going up
C
D.
for the 2 measures, exactly.
Yeah, so it'd be like so it gets some resolution.
It hangs there, yeah, exactly. Yeah.
Oh, it's definitely an 80s style ballad.
Yep, exactly.
Without a doubt. I think Warren. Trying to think of the other ones who. I think it was a rule every hair band had to have at least one song that did that.
Yep.
At least with that kind of chord style.
A little 1-5-6-4 type of thing, yeah.
Yeah, and a little. What do they call that when you bounce your chord like that? There's a name for it.
It could be broken chords, could be arpeggiating, but you're not really.
Well,
not really
it's more like it's that bounce.
I usually just call it a bounce, yeah.
I think there is a term for it though, because I saw it the other day. I was like, oh, that's what they call it. You know, like Home Sweet Home.
Mm-hmm.
Which I used to know how to play that one.
E and then D, I think, right?
E, D, you mean for Home Sweet Home?
Yeah. Sounded like minor, though, I think.
Oh, yeah. The E?
Might not be the D, though.
I think it just drops down on one note. Yeah, I used to know it.
I think it's the A.
I just would never play it with my band and forgot it.
Something with the A. But the E, A, and F sharp. But not the chords, just the notes.
Oh, yeah. Major. E major is not my normal go-to major.
Yeah, I like it though. Pushes a little bit out of the comfort zone and see what you find.
See, I have to play it like certain ways to get the.
Yeah. So you make sure you get all the thirds. Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah, it's the thirds that help me to figure out a scale. That's the part that fucks me up is the beat.
Yeah. DJ's wondering what's your favorite scale to play. A lot of folks, it's C major and A minor is a lot of folks' favorite. But
well, it's not my favorite to play in, but it's definitely my go-to because it's the easiest to play in. I don't know. My favorite has changed so much in the last couple of years.
Exactly.
I definitely like E minor. I just like the way it overall sounds for a minor scale. I mean, I always did love the A. The A is a great sounding minor scale. But the E really does have a little more.
What about from that E minor if you went from an E minor to a D to a C, both major? And then home would be a G major.
Kind of resolved nice to the G. It makes me totally want to go into a happy song now.
Because that's basically treating it like a 6-5-4-1. Now this time do the start from that E minor, and then the C, then the D, and then the G.
D to the G there.
Because that flips it around to make it a 6-4-5-1. Oh yeah, flip those around actually. Do it the other way. Do the E minor, C, G, D.
Oh, I already like that Those three. Okay, I could work with that.
That's back to a 6-4-1-5.
Would you say the 6-1?
6-4-1-5 is what that was working out as, because we're starting with the 6 as the E minor, and then the 4 is the C.
What? The E minor is a sixth? I thought we were in E minor.
Well, that's the thing, is if we are technically, but by considering the E minor is relative of G major. So if G major is the 1, the E minor is the 6.
Yeah. So if we're in G major, then yes, the E is the sixth.
6-4-1-5.
6-4. 6-4-1-5. Okay, 6-4-1-5. See, and this is another one where, like every other measure, I wouldn't hit the D. I would hold on the G.
Exactly.
See, I want to do a build up right after that where trying to think again. There's at least 3 songs that I can think of that have that, like Heart being one of them.
Yeah, absolutely.
I mean, there's a little more to Hearts, but
there's a reason it's such a common progression, because it does sound and feel so good.
Oh yeah, you can't go wrong with that. That you said 1 6, no 6 4 1 6-4-1 by itself. Very pleasing.
Exactly. And actually, DJ's asking where the melody should take us. What I was doing was just taking, since it's all based on G major, I was just taking the G major pentatonic. And those were the only notes I was hitting. And basically focusing on those first 3 when he's in the beginning.
I wish I had a looper. See, now I like on the second measure going to the D.
Nice.
First time hold. So
the first time you hold it down?
The second time resolve to the D on every other one. resolve or
Resolve feels like the G for me. Could be several places. Could be the E minor also.
And jump up to the G at that point. Pretty much the same chords on both of those. The only difference was at first time I was starting with the E, and then for the variation I started with the G. But everything else, same chords.
Yep, and it's all in that same family, which is beautiful because that G major, that E minor, they work together so nice.
And that progression really has a different feel depending on whether you start on the minor or the major. I mean, starting on the minor, is more somber. Starting on the major,
it's almost more
celebrating. Like
I'd almost go wistful at the end. It's like it's happy and then it goes wistful almost. And actually, for that way, I would actually do the full circle the first time and sit the second time, like you were saying. Second time, just do
down
the
to the
three-chord
C.
sit.
Yeah. That's how I would end up like arranging that one.
Yep, dark and hopeful. Yep, there you go.
Dark and hopeful. There's a good one. Oh, thank you, DJ.
Yep.
And again, you know how you play it, whether you do these kind of chords or you do. A lot of fun with that. So yes, E minor. I like it.
E minor's a good one. Yes, we'll give that the stamp of approval on that one. E minor. E minor, yes.
Which I guess by osmosis would make G major the
happy cousin. Yes, indeed.
Although I still like.
Now, see, that felt more
That-
like a G.
Yeah, that was a G.
An
That
F?
was a G. I'm playing it so. I normally would be playing that progression in C because it's
Sure.
that would be my go-to for that one. But
Mhm.
it does sound nice in G. Much brighter actually.
Yeah, G is a very bright key to me. Yeah, I love G.
Got to work on my endings.
Nah, just
That
roll them on
actually
to the next
usually
song.
that one I usually get just naturally get in the groove and can usually end it pretty damn good.
Yeah, absolutely. Love it. Always a
Yeah.
good feel.
Got a lot of that particular progression in C. So many ways you can do it. Like trying to get that dissonant major. I tried to pull a 2 off in there.
Nice.
It almost worked.
Mm-hmm. Now that was going from the C, the B minor. That's a B minor flat 5, so that is finished.
That's that typical like C drop down with like
Yeah. You can even keep going the G and the F though, yeah. And then it would be back to the minors again. If you wanted to go the E minor, D minor. Walking it all the rest of the way down. Very cool.
now normally that would be much longer.
Well, yeah. Normally it would be. Looks like your center camera blacked out. What happened?
Yeah. My middle one, the battery died. Can't keep up with the charge. Or
That's all right.
am I even charging it?
We still got you at the bookends there. And also, actually, if you're hitting keys right in the middle, if you hit keys right in the middle, your C music, it'll shows up in that little black space there now. So that's perfect.
Yeah. I can bounce.
There you go. And actually doing like and that way you see the little spots going left and right. There you go. It is a really fun add-on.
It does get some cool particles in there.
Yeah. The more busy it sees.
I used to have something that had that kind of bounce. It was I can't do it as fast as you.
That's quite all right. Takes time to build up. Takes time to build up. But actually, the video that I was watching earlier that I was going to show you later, with the guy who I was telling you, the guy that you like, the piano guy, Oliver Prine, German guy, and he has the the
He
hand
has
grips.
the most beautiful hands I have ever seen.
Everything like
And
the
I'm not
cameras from
hand
above.
gay.
The camera from above, and he's showing like telling you, explaining things. Saying, "Well, you go over here, we go over there." Very good explanations, and very good use of the hands for all the explanations and descriptions. But with him, it's all about the hand grips, and he's almost exclusively for this type of improvising he's doing, almost exclusively using fingers 1, 2, and 3. So he like almost never gets the pinky and the ring finger involved on the right hand.
So
Thumb, index, and
pointy,
middle.
middle.
Yep. And what he's doing is grabbing, like if you were to look at a pentatonic, so like let's take A minor pentatonic as an example. The A, the C, and the D are the first three. Then if you were to take those same 3 fingers, and now you with your thumb do the D, and then you go D, E flat, E. So you've got like the one grip on the bottom is those first 3.
What's the third note?
They're all right next to each other, chromatic, D, D.
Oh.
And then E, G, and A for the same grip as the first one, but E, G, and A. So that A, C, D, and E, gets that blue note in the middle there. But the main idea is that the A, C, D and the E, G, A are the same grip, same distance.
Yeah.
And if you can get comfortable with those little jumps like that,
Yeah.
you can fly up and down any of the pentatonics that way. And if you add those little chromatic ones in the middle there.
No, the one in the middle you said was D.
Yep, every note from D to E, those 3. And that gets you the blue scale, basically. Gets you the blue note in between the 4 and the 5. But taking that, and I just did it in A because that's one of the ones that keeps it all pretty much in one place. But you can do that for any of the minor pentatonics. Just starting with, that same grip. If you were to do it in one of the most difficult, if you did it in that E flat minor pentatonic, you'd be doing it the other way where you're using almost all black notes. And that was the other thing, is it doesn't always have to be the same fingering, like, getting comfortable with the fingering so that you can just fly with the one hand doing those 3.
When I go back, I don't end up finishing on the same finger. Like my thumb gets, I end up finishing with my pointy instead of my thumb. If I focus, I do end up finishing on my thumb.
And you can also do them in the down, doing the downward way. Just to get comfortable with the way they feel there. But the main important point was the fact that it's just with those 2 little grips, or even just that one grip in the 2 positions,
Well,
that can cover the minor pentatonic.
Fingers. I mean, these 3 fingers should be my power fingers.
Exactly. And he does mention that this is more for when you're improvising, rather than trying to play a set piece of music, because a set piece of classical music, for example, would usually have the fingering either implied or, you're using the pinky a lot and all that kind of thing. And it's not that it's a bad thing to use, it's just that with this, using this, and he uses it just to fly all up and down.
It kind of leads more to soloing.
Exactly. And pentatonics always sound great when you're soloing. And having an understanding of it with the piece of music you're playing against, which, what's the actual home key, so that you know to emphasize that note and land on that note a lot, so that you're getting the right feel from that pentatonic. 'Cause otherwise it does you can feel kind of wishy-washy just floating up and down on pentatonics. Happens on the guitar all the time. Also, people just going up and down those positions that they know, so it's always the same licks all the time. But if you change up the positions that you play in, or play linearly, so you're playing linear scales rather than playing across in box positions, that can help change the sound a little bit there too. What's up, Knight? I see Knight jumped in the chat there too.
Hey, Knight.
And the keys from the
jamming.
glow from the keys is definitely amazing. I like that one a lot. We're still working on the one guy had it set up where it was almost in a 3D way. It was like
Yeah, really
the way,
want to
like
figure
the way
out
you see
what he
Tony
was
on the
doing.
right, like you'd see him playing and you'd see the notes coming up off the keyboard like directly. So
Yeah.
we're seeing if we can work that out at some point.
If I can get a good enough video card, I can make those things fly on top of my actual keys.
With your actual hands instead of having just the crossed hands at the bottom. But that's good though. It's a good program though. I like that. And again, the one I was using was is Meticulous, which looks a little different, but the way that one works.
Meticulous is much better for like tutorials, training. I love being able to see the keys to the scales.
And it's not listening.
Here, show them how it works. I'll be right back.
Yeah, sure. So we got it so that it shows the overlay for us there. And with the overlay I have, it should show even the keys that we're playing in. I might have to actually relaunch it again because it doesn't look like it's picking up the MIDI that we have here, but I can close it and bring it back up and get that. But the main idea is that it'll show in these 3 different sections. I did it as a screen capture in 3 pieces. So like it captures the keyboard at the bottom so we can see where we're actually getting the notes from down there. And then going up from there, seeing in the section on the right with C major there, it tells you actually what notes I'm hitting. It'll tell you on the staff and it'll tell you, what notes are actually being hit or held down. But it's not listening from my keyboard right now, so I can't just click on the notes though to show what the notes are. Just hard to get an interval or a chord out that way. But we can also choose all the different sounds from there too, and pick drawbar organ, rock organ, pianos, any of that sort of thing. But it is very cool that you can hook up anything, and I'm using a USB Uno. It's just a small USB device on one end and MIDI in and out on the other. So I hooked it right up to the keyboard. So it's sending the MIDI data over and it reads right from there. Same thing, reads it real time. And it's not as much for the visualization as it is for a tutorial type of thing where it's telling us more what we're actually, what notes we're actually hitting or what scales we're actually trying to play, that sort of a thing, because that is important. But as I said, right now it is not reading from here, but it is reading from when I click in here. So I'll probably just have to restart the program to get it going. But in the meantime, that's okay. A lot of MIDI options out there. Yep, he uses Roland MIDI, Yep.
All right, I am officially out of coffee.
No.
No, I mean it's out of my system.
There you go. Well, I'm out of the other way.
No coffee left.
I have an empty mug over here and I need to go fill it, but I'll work on that in a minute. But in the meantime, I was just noticing that I have my Meticulous set up here and I can actually click on it, but it's not reading the MIDI right now. So.
Oh, you're not sending a MIDI signal? Yeah, that's what happens depending on what mode I'm in. Like if I switch to studio mode, notice there's no flat. You can still hear me, but notice there's no. I have to switch to live mode in order for the MIDI out to come out.
And then if I do hold a note though, then it'll show on the actual keyboard. Like if I click and hold a note, that stays. But I think the main thing is also I usually have to leave it maximized, not minimized, as long as it's on the screen somewhere.
I like how Meticulous also shows the sustain and the mute pedals and things.
Exactly.
That's useful.
Exactly. Yeah, that blue disco light is called a moonflower. It's one of the lighting effects I have shooting up from on the couch there. And it's also got the laser dots coming from over here.
Yeah, that's like a love light. Use that when you got a date.
You get the rest of the lights off. Yep. You can get that Barry away. Hey, baby, come here.
Oh yeah.
Oh yeah. I gotta be careful where I aim that laser though, because the laser, it is right over here, and like sometimes it's going like right past my head. So if I lean a little too far this way, I get like laser in the face. So I gotta watch that. But the blue light is the one behind me though, and I do use that and I have the light bar up over here because that's what I use for the gigs. So sometimes it's yellow, sometimes red alert.
Oh,
blue. We've got all the snappy options. Just be able to change colors to whatever I want, and I can set them all to individual lights if I want. That's what I did the other night. That gets a little crazy sometimes. change the whole time. I can have it morph the whole time.
I'm waiting for the pics to like jump up and eat my face.
Then I had another one that was only one different color. So it's like 3 of the lights are the same, and then one is different. And then the one just kind of moves through. So it's like 3 lights are orange and one's blue, and then it's that one's blue, and then that one's blue, and then it switches around like that. So just different programs I have programmed into the light bar. But usually for the show, I just usually leave it on. The one that makes it brighter in here.
Yeah, we need something to go with those lights.
There it is. We can also do the brightness, bring it down, and then back up. There's only one spot in the front over here. That's why it gets dark in here. Gotta watch that. But it does have a fader, so. Nice.
Getting into the dance mood.
Absolutely. Getting the different
I can do a rave.
Yes, indeed. Exactly like a rave. Oh, there it is. That's where this comes in. If I had the bass hooked up, and you get the bass balls pedal, that's the one that gives you that because that envelope filter sound going.
That porn bass.
Exactly, the bass balls, and that's not to be confused with the bass big muff. That was the other one.
Now that's some soundtrack.
There you go. I like it. Good stuff.
Yeah, this thing does have some fun, like just synthy pulsating pat. That's what this whole category is pulsating.
This one was warm pad. Or space choir.
carnival at night. I can play with one hand.
Gotta love rooms that you can play with one hand. It's good to have lots of options.
I'm looking at your pictures as I'm listening to that sound. Some of those pictures actually work really good for that.
Because they're all morphing together.
That looks like what this sounds like.
Yeah.
See, some of these patches you might wonder like where they'd be useful. I mean,
There's some techno for you.
that's like Jason's
It is.
gremlin growl. Look, Ange, I'm Jason. Yeah, see, I did learn to growl.
Yeah.
That's some fry shit.
What about when it gets really low? Techno grindcore.
I am making some techno metal.
Yeah, yeah.
Oh, it's not as good high, but right there. And it's called It's called Darkness Side, so I think the patch was made for Jason.
That doesn't really sound like a steel drum on this end, but okay.
That's some like Game of Thrones synthy shit.
Now you need a really dark key to play. That's like your G flat minor stuff.
Oh, that actually does feel like Game of Thrones. The dragons are coming.
Where have you been? Silence.
I like that patch.
That's a very cool one.
Oh, cookies, rum, rum, rum.
Cookies. Cookie Monster.
Cookie Monster was the original deathcore singer.
He was, actually, yep. And Grimace was just right there, like, no. Get out of here, man.
Well, Snuffleupagus, he had that
Snuffy.
growl. Oh, hey,
Snuffy.
bird.
Play really fast by cheating and using two hands.
Trying to purposely cut it so that it's got that like
Got that drive.
It's a little tricky with the weighted keys with some of these.
Yeah, definitely. I got that.
Because you can hear the effect when I hit it too hard, huh? Because like some of these will just kind of like the volume just jacks right up.
Yeah.
Right here. F minor. does have kind of a Blade Runner kind of vibe to it.
Yeah. Little Blade Runner, little Total Recall, little GTA series. Yeah. All
Yeah,
that fits in.
It's called Euro reggae because apparently Hungarian reggae is not enough.
They had to
We
just
have
generalize
Euro
more.
reggae.
Yeah, not as specific, but that's good. It's
Well,
right in that same neighborhood.
would reggae have been your go-to name on that patch?
Probably not. Probably something in the video game line, yeah. Or cinematic even.
Yeah.
Something
Well,
cinematic could be in there too.
it is under pulsating.
Yeah. Nice.
It's a driving patch.
Solid.
That's the next Flash Gordon. Oh, that's a good voice.
I like the wave.
It's called Didgeridoo.
Digitaroo.
Didgeridoo. I feel like I'm in a pig calling contest.
Keep going with the digi while I go grab my coffee.
Okay.
Like that one a lot. All getting the mod.
I'm playing with the playing with the wheel.
See, this one doesn't have a wheel. It's got a button.
Well, this wheel can go forward and side to side. So with some of these,
Yeah. You get different effects, sure.
like that's what it does when I move up.
Nice. Up and down is like faster, slower, or is it deeper and shallower?
It seems
For
to
the,
change the actual like bump. It's pretty cool.
Right. Nice.
nice for. They might have some use.
Yeah, absolutely.
Now there's a 80s sci-fi movie. What's that one that they had the TV show where they were the Running Man?
Yeah.
Run, Arnold! Stay alive.
That one's called Bird.
Bird goes with anything.
It doesn't matter what key it's in. Oh, they found the Running Man. Nice. Bunch of gifts from Running Man. Bob Barker. No, not Bob Barker. Oh.
As long as he's not trying to kiss me.
No kisses or hugs for Tony.
I always wanted to be on the Family Feud, but I was always worried about that, getting kissed from him. I feel like we're in the forest. I could definitely do something with that one.
Yeah. Now we got the $6 Million Man. Nice.
Oh, yeah. Run, Steve. As he's being ripped apart and put back together.
I like that one.
I could totally see doing a beat off of that.
Mhm. Woodblock.
Oh, there's no blues and bass in this. Well, that's all the pulsatings.
That's the glockenspiel.
That's all my pulsating patches. This one's a nice voice one.
Definitely. They found Kit from Knight Rider. Nice.
Oh, Knight Rider, yeah. Oh, damn. Gary Coleman totally should have been on Knight Rider.
Would have been a totally different story. Drawbar's kind of loud.
Yeah, the organs can be. On every synth that I have, organs tend to be really hot.
I usually like the percussive one, though.
Here's my organs. Yeah, listen how hot those are.
A lot of beef in
Yeah, most of these are all designed for hard rock and shit. That's some Deep Purple kind of shit.
That's the rock organ.
And this one's literally called Smoked Water. Yes. What was it? Dun, dun, dun,
EGA.
I never learned how to play Smoke on the Water on keyboard. Oh, E. What'd you say? E?
EGA is what it feels like.
Thank you. Now I can say I can play it on the keyboard.
Don't forget that little walk up too from the D flat, chromatically to the E.
Yeah, I really should have learned a lot more Deep Purple for the organs.
Nice.
They had fantastic organ work in their songs.
Definitely.
When they had keyboards.
And that's the best. Even stuff like I love some of the Rush stuff with keyboards, even Van Halen stuff with keyboards. I mean, there's keyboard parts in things that I never really learned, but just loved the way they fit into where they were, which is awesome.
Oh, Cathedral.
Oh, that's
Cathedral. That's not what you're going to hear on Sunday.
There was did you ever see the Simpsons episode where Bart
yeah,
changes out
Inagata DeVita? Practically gives
That's
her a
the
heart
one.
attack.
She nails
That's
that
another
one.
song. That's another song that's a bucket list. One day I will figure out how to completely play it.
Yep. And that's one just listening to it and being familiar with it already, just sit down with it and sit down at the keys. Don't be afraid to play notes and just play notes and you'll find all of it. Like,
Yeah.
it's just one of those things. Remembering it all or trying to memorize it or going page by page through the sheet music is one thing, but just having it internalized and then sitting down at the keyboard and figuring out how to make those sounds, even if it's just hitting target notes at first or hitting target chords, root third, whatever, just finding something to latch into and get locked into and then work from there.
And
That's really
don't
the way
be
to go.
afraid to play fast on that one.
Yeah, exactly. And you
that
better know, like, get
that
all
one
those little moves
that
down.
one reminds me of that La Ville, the
Villa
Rush.
Strangiato. Ah, yeah.
Yeah,
And that's one actually, RGS and I are still working on that. My guitar parts, or the bass parts I did, I went all the way through it, but I probably got about 60 to 70% of it down. I got to definitely revisit a bunch. So a lot more edits to come on that one. But yeah,
that's
that's
the
a hell
one.
of a song.
Yeah, Geddy Lee described it as like an exercise in exuberance
Oh
or
yeah,
something like that.
yeah, and just
Inagata Devita is the same way.
exactly. But even seeing the way that the one video I watched for La Villa Strangiato, the way they broke it down into whatever, like 17, 18 different sections. And then when you're listening to it, it really is, each section has its own character to it. So it's not like verse, chorus, pre-chorus, whatever. It's, there's literally like
Oh yeah,
17,
yeah.
18
Well,
individual
they
sections of it
arranged
all.
that like in a very kind of classical approach to the arrangement. So it's done in like a score.
Mhm. Yep. But again, when you're learning new songs, just the approach is the important part. Be the willingness to learn it. A lot of times before I even touch anything, or before I start trying to learn it, like, or some people, they'll put like the first two measures on repeat and just work on that and slow it down or whatever. Me, I want to start in context. I want to hear the whole thing, start to finish. And sometimes I'm not even touching the keyboard, or if I am, or the guitar or whatever. But if I am, I'm just thinking, okay, it's A works. Okay, this other part. Okay, I hear a C there. Yep. Okay, I hear a D there, and I'm just trying to find a note here and there that works, and
Yeah.
reference note, and then at the end, the next time through, try to add a little bit to it. Maybe okay, then I hear a little phrase in there. Oh, I hear that phrase. Okay.
With that one, you're practically gonna have to hit every note to get all the notes because
Yep.
there's parts in there where I think they literally are just going through like every key chromatically.
And that's the kind of thing where they do moves like that, and it's important to understand how to do moves like that. And that's one also where, in that video I watched earlier, where he was doing those hand grips, that same little 3-finger hand grip that we just talked about, that same one that we were using for that, you can use. He has different hand grips that you can add. One of them, it's a 5-finger grip that uses like one low, and then like let's see. So I think it's basically the whole minor pentatonic. But if you play that and then you play it again, one whole step up from there, you're covering like a different mode. And I don't have which one memorized at the moment, but like, let's say that's Lydian mode. And then if you use that same hand grips, but in a different way, you're now doing mixed Lydian mode. So like the different modes, you can use the same hand grips as a cheat to try to get all the different modes of the diatonic scales all in there. And he was also using the same thing for all of the modes of the melodic minor also at the end of the video, which I was like, oh my God, because that's got all kinds of
You
different
are
stuff
much
in there.
more fluid keeping your hand grip on the keyboard the same way you do on a bass.
Mhm.
Me, I'm still in that like when I'm trying to move back and forth between keys, remembering that my grip, it's something I never focused on up until we started talking about it in the last year.
Mhm.
And I am recognizing like I have to start thinking that way, where think of the claw
Mhm.
just on the keyboard side
Yep.
instead of the guitar side.
Yeah. And that's the thing, is a lot of it did translate for me from guitar and from bass. Knowing where the octaves are, knowing where the fifths are, figuring out what the intervals are, what they feel like.
And which ones complement the same claw, because with the keyboard you can't use the same claw all the way up and down the way that you can with the guitars, so you got to kind of pick. But fortunately the spots where they do work the same are relative keys. They're relative complementary chords.
Mhm.
I got to the keyboard section of the sounds.
Mhm.
Harpsichord, something I always wanted to actually get a real one.
Now, what happens with the dynamics on that? Like, the harder you play, do you get just volume? Because a real harpsichord, it would just be
certain
steady,
ones.
right?
Oh, well, a real harpsichord would be weighted. I mean, they were. actually is better with the clavs. For some
Ooh,
reason,
yeah.
clavs always sound better on these. Oh, that's kind of funky.
Ooh, yeah.
That's got like low end. Always, I need to explore these clavs more. They have some.
Yeah, getting the feel for that clav bounce like that you got there, that's so key right there.
That's some Stevie Wonder shit.
Exactly.
I got to get better at my middle notes. Like, your ability to hit those bridge notes, because with bass like I'm just jumping to the beat. I should be. I got to
One
get
of
that.
the
I got to get that D in there.
Well, one of the easiest ways to do it is to think of it just as doesn't even have to be the D. It could even be one chromatic step away from wherever you're trying to get to, just right before it though. Doo-doo, like you're just sliding into it almost. Doesn't have to be pronounced. Yep.
Yeah,
Yep.
half step works.
It can be from underneath or above. The trickiest part, like you're seeing there, is the timing, like trying to get that hit at the last second, right before where you're headed.
Yeah.
And that's why I actually coming in for the landing with both fingers, like with two fingers, and like just doing like because then you're kind of making the landing with both fingers, and just kind of landing with one first. The other thing is to try to even just put like more of a walk down, even where we can go. That way you can try to fill that whole last measure, walking it down. Yeah, there you go.
See, I kind of want to actually use all.
You can use any of them, any way you like. That's the beauty. You can double some up too.
I'm missing the note. like where this is going.
Definitely.
I can bounce on that.
Absolutely. Harmonic minor, yeah, another good one. Phrygian dominant, yeah. For the metal folks out there, Phrygian for sure. That flat 2,
Oh,
the
this
flat 9.
this very much feels metal.
Yeah, yeah.
Whatever key I'm in, I'm pretty sure it's Jason approved.
Yeah, we're borrowing some stuff for sure.
Oh, I'm hearing something. Hold on.
Yeah, that G F sharp E.
Yeah. It's kind of a mixture of one that I was doing with something else that I was trying.
A way to walk into the next one. Yeah.
No, see, that's not the right. That's it. Oh, that sounds so nice. I think
Very
I found my second part. This piece that I was working on that I'm trying to find a second movement for it. I think I just got it. And I don't even know what key I'm in. I think I want to say E minor, but it totally goes off the E minor rails.
Not really.
Well, the beat.
I'm thinking of the E is still like a 4, or sorry, 1, 5, 6, 4, but in minor. So the 1, the 5, and the 4 are gonna all be minor, and only that C is different.
Yeah, the C is also fucked up. And then I hold on the A and then drop down to the E again.
Yeah, I like that.
Back to the A. It's very Pink Floydish at that point.
Yeah, it is. Got a good flow.
I mean, it's dark. It's a little sad,
Very dark.
but it goes with this other piece that I was doing. That was then it goes into something totally. That's where the different pieces. That's where I could be using these alternate E's.
Oh yeah,
I like it.
I like it.
Oh, I think I see Jack Black in one of your pictures.
Oh yeah, that could be. Is it him or is it Seth MacFarlane? Maybe.
It looked like Jack Black sitting in a marshmallow.
I think that one was Seth MacFarlane, but we'll see when it comes back around. Do you remember which side it was on or which spot it was in?
I was in the first slot.
Okay, yeah, it'll come up in the second slot in a minute then.
Oh, is
I
that
see Jack
how it
Black in the
works?
GIF. Well, I have they're all it's the same video. I just have them shifted in time, and I didn't do a good job on the third and fourth because they're
There's
like right
Ange.
behind each other. There's Ange.
See
So you'll see Ange.
inside
You'll see.
Ange, inside Ange. Oh,
Yep,
she's
that's
got a haircut.
there's the marshmallow on top right there. But once Ange is in that one, then you'll see Ange show up in the middle a little while later, giving away my secrets.
Oh, I see a killer synthesizer. See, that's the kind of keyboard I want to buy in the future.
Yeah. Hell yeah. And that's the thing is some of those, that's the keys or the word keys I was using to feed the AI. So I'd be like, futuristic synthesizer or
I think I see
rock
Ange
stadium.
in that picture. Did you shove Ange subliminally into all these?
Yeah, I knew. The AI might be finding her in all of them, but
yeah, at this
she's
point,
definitely in
that
several of them.
AI.
She's definitely in those two that are right back to back that you saw. Those come
I
around.
see her in the woods.
One of them was actually started with the mustache picture that she usually has as her icon here. But yeah, it all depends where they are in the rotation, where it comes in. That one almost looks like Ange in the woods there, but no, that was just the woods with like druids or whatever showing up.
That last one, I
Through
thought
the
you
trees.
turned her into a crab. And now she's a Warner Brothers character.
Yep, we had the reggae crabs, the Warner Brothers guys. There were a bunch of those where I was asking just for different cartoon things or like all of the cast of whatever, and it tried to merge them all into one character instead of giving me a whole scene like the Super Friends, like having them all out there. Instead, it was just all like, okay, here, this one's Batman and Superman and this and that. And they put them all together.
Is that like somebody that looks like a talk show in a mall with a security guard?
Yep, that's
in the
Seth
top
MacFarlane.
right? It
Seth
is Seth
MacFarlane,
MacFarlane, yeah.
Yep. I forget what I said there. Something about the mall, though. I want to say.
Yeah, it totally looks
Shopping
like
at
in the mall.
Yep. But I wasn't expecting it to be him at the mall. I was expecting it to be like his characters at the mall. But whatever. The AI did what it's going to do.
The AI is going to do what it wants to do.
Yep. Then we got the MC Escher toucans and turtles and stuff like that. So the Simpsons characters. And, yep. And And that's the closest the AI would come to actual, copyrighted characters or whatever. I guess it was just taking its cues from there and trying to build something uh, analogous but not identical.
Something Egyptian Simpsons.
Sure. It's got all kinds of options. And that's right. He's got that hat with like the bunny ears or whatever the heck that's going on there. It is like a pharaoh's hat almost. Good stuff. The Simpsons, great show. Dope. Many, many seasons of enjoyment.
So, for any of you out there, Saturday we're going to be jamming Saturday night.
We'll be jamming.
Any of you that have instruments and want to hook up on the Zoom, get the instruments set up and calibrated, and want to kind of bounce off some jams at each other, maybe throw some ideas, write some songs.
I think I'm out of the gig on Saturday, so I won't be here, but you guys will be, so you guys can make that work for sure.
Well, I will try to play like you
Nice,
Saturday.
nice.
That way, it's like you're here.
Yep. And the Tracy Ullman Show. Yep, that's when it first came. The Simpsons, the debut, the Tracy Ullman Show.
Oh yeah,
And that was way back then. Many, many good seasons. So many good episodes. And I mean, the funniest.
88 sounds right.
I want to say the best thing about it was that we would be watching, like, if I was watching The Simpsons with my sister and my mom, we would be watching, like, my sister and I were watching one episode, and my mom was like just missing everything, like all of the, all the references that they're alluding to. Like, she wouldn't get any of them. So, like, she's watching a completely different episode. Like, we're cracking up laughing, and she has no idea what we're laughing about because, like, we get the inside joke and she doesn't for a lot of that stuff. Because a lot of it was pop culture references and stuff that mom wasn't necessarily watching or paying attention to. So.
And jokes are meant for adults, but it required a certain kind of adult who was still tied to the kid scene. Like the pop culture part of it is why like some of the adult jokes went right over the adults' heads.
Yep, exactly. And that's what I found the funniest about it, is we were just watching entirely different things at the same time.
and the little kids never really got the jokes either, which was real slick on them, because you want to be able to say a good adult like joke, but you don't want to mess the kids up by saying it. And The Simpsons always did a good job of keeping it kid friendly.
Yeah, and the Halloween episodes, absolutely. And Homer eating hallucinogenic chili peppers, absolutely. Any cartoons where they're doing the hallucinogenic stuff, just I love the colors like that. I mean, I'm a fan of tie-dye and everything anyway, so you get colors like that going, and I'm always a fan. What's up, Donnie?
Hey, Donnie.
Got some more people. Yeah, they got Homer with his pupils going nuts. Is that Morse code? For send more donuts.
I've been there.
And beer. Don't forget the beer. I mean, Homer's my kind of guy. Donuts and beer, I can relate. There are times that I would show up at the mountain and like I would have my tent and I'm there to be camping for like 4 or 5 days. And what do I show up with? I got a cooler with like 2 cases of beer and a box of donuts. Let's go.
If you come with a box of donuts, you come in peace.
Yes, sir.
You are a friend.
That's right. I have snack and I have breakfast right here.
If it's an empty box of donuts, you are a foe.
Oh yeah, no. Actually, that was one of the somebody posted that the other day. Like somebody, so and so's boss's secretary quit, and here's the donuts she delivered. And it was a box of like 6 donuts, and every donut had a big bite taken out of it.
Oh, yeah, we'd still eat it though. Like a donut with just a bite. I mean, it depends on the donut, I guess.
There's no lipstick on it or anything. I think it'll be all right. But yeah, no, I don't think so.
I'm not letting a good donut go to waste.
Yeah, Homer had some great lines, man. A lovable idiot.
Wow, these pads are hot.
See, that sounds
Almost
like
sounds
chariots of fire.
It sounds like brass more than a pad. that's a very unusual progression for me. I'm doing a 1-3-4 there. That's
like
not
that.
something in major. That's not one I typically do.
That's the funny thing is that normally I would do that as a 1, and the 4 I would be major, and the 3 would be minor. But I like what they were doing there.
Feel like we're on an Irish mountain, about to wash in some Irish. What was that soap?
Irish Spring.
Irish Spring. Give me my Irish Spring.
Basically, I'm leaving out the 2 and the 7.
I kind of hear an organ in there.
Yeah, this is an ocarina, but
Ocarinas are awesome.
yeah. I was leaving out the D and the B. And the D's all right too. So I'm just leaving out the B, I guess.
Now we got to make it creepy. Oh, there's a storm coming in, mate. I want to play with the ocarina too.
Yeah, man.
I know I have a good ocarina in my Inhalion.
Yeah,
On the Roland, I'm not sure if I do definitely have one because it's kind of part of the general MIDI, but they put it under like flutes.
Now, is Fozzie one of your favorite Muppets? Because I see Fozzie playing the piano, and he was always one of my favorites.
Oh, Fozzie was. On the Muppet side, Fozzie, Animal, Beaker.
The dudes in the balcony.
Oh, absolutely. Actually, the dudes in the balcony were the reason why I watched everything.
Exactly.
They were.
Oh, there it is. Somebody's got the ocarina. Nice. Which song was that? Sarla's song. There you go. I almost heard Stand By Me in there.
I'd be like.
There it is.
The hardest part about that song is getting out of it. It is one of those riffs that, like if you go to a band jam and you play a certain riff and it's that riff that like the band can never cut. And the only way you get out of it is to actually look at each other and say, okay, last one. Otherwise you can literally play it all night.
Yep. Oh, Fraggle Rock, another one, another great show.
Oh yeah.
Bringing me now. That's taking me back.
all the Muppet shows. Jim Henson, total idol.
Mhm.
If I was more into like dolls and shit, I would have totally wanted to go be a Muppet designer. I know several who actually make a living making Muppets.
See, I would think you might have gone the other side of that one, which would be like for a horror movie, like special effects, makeup type of stuff. Like
Well,
that
yeah,
kind of
that
thing.
was the other side of it, where they were utilizing it in some cases for horror, just for the rigging systems and that kind of design that make things fly around and look like they're haunted.
That's cool. A, B flat, D, E, F.
A, B, D flat, F. Man, he
A,
goes-
B flat, D, E, F. That's what he was saying. Kiefer's talking about it's another pentatonic scale, but it is the Kumoi Joshi scale, as it fits within Phrygian. Like it.
Man,
It's that A and B flat that makes it fit within Phrygian with that flat 2. I like it.
oh, I lost it.
Yeah, the D, E, F are all together, and then just A and B flat.
A flat. So are you saying
A, B flat. A and B flat. And then D, E, F.
Oh, okay. I do see it.
It is kind of weird because it's not a standard
Yeah.
spacing for a pentatonic, but I like
It's
it.
got a nice sound though.
Think of it as because I would be expecting that A to be an A flat, like you're saying. Very exotic sounding.
Kind of reminds me of like, you know, that at the end of the Incredible Hulk from the 70s, that really sad Incredible Hulk song.
Mhm.
Dun, 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 dun.
Yeah. Nice.
This is kind of like reverse.
Mm-hmm. Kung Fu soundtracks, nice.
It's like it's not the sad Hulk, it's the tense Hulk. See, I don't feel like A is the right bass note to go with that though.
Well, that's actually because the way it's kind of working off of Phrygian mode. I was looking at that too a second ago, where the D feels like a minor, but E feels like the
Oh
minor
my
7
God,
flat
the
5.
D is it. The D is it.
Yeah. And then E is the E minor 7 flat 5. So you're using the E, G, and B flat. Makes that sound right. Or it feels right.
Well, I'm liking this one as now where.
And that's the thing is if we're starting on that D, I'm thinking of that D as the 6. So thinking F major? No. Maybe. Related to F major. No. I'm thinking that D minor is like the 6.
Oh, hold on.
Try E, G, and B flat.
No, I like it. It's a fucking tricky one. trying to simulate the same pattern that's going on here, except down.
I think it is related to F major because it's got that one flat only, B flat.
Not hitting something right there. I'm so close, but are you hearing that? Like, I want to repeat that pattern that's going on with the A there, but I'm going down a half step, and let's see. One, two, three. So it would be.
If you shifted the whole scale down,
Does that feel
half a
right
step?
to you?
How about
That's what I'm doing. I'm shifting it down, and
But I mean the whole thing, including instead of the D E F, we're doing the D flat, E flat, E.
well, I am. I'm pushing up the E on my left hand. I'm going B. Then up to the E. That's the only difference on the left hand.
Right. And I was thinking
But on the right hand, I'm doing that A B flat,
right,
D E F thing he suggested. And then I'm sliding down a half step and trying to do the same thing. Something's not right.
It almost feels. I see what you're saying. I'm not sure if the whole thing should shift down or if it should just feel the same, feel that little tension with what we were still doing. Trying to see which notes feel right with that E.
That sounds okay though, right? Like that second part doesn't sound flattish.
It's not that it's flattish. There's something else that feels like it wants to pull towards it, but I'm not sure what it is.
Yeah, I know. It's like being on the tip of your tongue. Hold on, I'll be right back.
Yep. Thinking just the E, the A flat.
Still not sold on that C sharp here.
See, I'm skipping the ski sharp, and I was just doing
Yeah, well, yeah, I'm trying to keep a certain kind of heartbeat
symmetry
going.
almost. Yeah, yeah. I'm thinking if you go with that, well, let's call that G sharp, A, and G sharp, and then if you an E,
E?
yeah, not as a chord, but just as a note, yeah. With the E under.
Okay. That E works. It actually gives it a different kind of bounce.
Yeah, and like Kiefer says, the haunted voice or vibe mostly coming from that half step down, key change and back, that little modulation and back.
Totally.
That's where that Phrygian gets you too, because going from the 1 to the flat 2 and back gives you that good feel.
See, that's what the guitarist should be doing there, like sliding it back down. I have no fucking idea what key I'm in at this point, but it's cool.
I like that. Getting out of the labels and boxes and getting into the way things feel. Nice.
Oh, I think I got it.
Nice.
Gonna take me a couple rounds of practice there, but
Oh yeah.
that. Ooh, no, I don't think it's Rosemary's Baby because I don't actually know that one.
I think he means the picture
I
there.
don't. Oh,
The GIF might be from there.
I was trying to think of the music to Rosemary's Baby. That was a scary ass fucking movie.
Indeed. Scary for everybody. I like it.
I'm almost there though. Like, phew, that was that.
That was
This
giving
is
birth, right?
well, this is like some serious key modulation going on here because I really can't narrow in the key. Because coming back down, this doesn't even follow the key I was just in.
Feels like all the white notes, so it feels like it's some
No,
form of C major or A minor.
No. Well, I'm hitting on my bass hand. I'm hitting D and E, D and E, D.
Right.
For this part, that's D's my left.
Right. Well, the thing is, the E would make sense if it's an E Phrygian feel. That would relate to C major because C major, D Dorian, or C Ionian, D Dorian, E Phrygian. So if we are playing E Phrygian, that would make sense.
This is the chord. The chord is a D minor.
Yep.
In first inversion. But this is throwing off that chord a little bit.
Right, and that's the thing is that's the note that's not part of the normal scale, and that's why it's part of what he was saying, the Phrygian.
And then this E shift, I know I'm not in D anymore because
Right.
I'm in E. I'm in E Phrygian.
For me, it feels like E half diminished with a minor 7 or a minor flat 3 and a flat 5.
That's not a normal minor.
What note are you starting from?
What's that?
Is that A flat you were on?
It's A flat. Like it can't be A flat.
Oh yeah. G sharp and then A. Yeah.
It's got to be G sharp. G sharp, A, B, C, D, E. I like it with that horn, actually. That's very...
the trumpet, yeah.
Yeah, it feels like gang fights in the back streets in the 70s. Going to be exploring that a little more.
Absolutely.
Thank you
Like
for the
that a lot.
suggestion, Q.
Yeah, very cool.
That's a useful. And if any of you guys want to jam Saturday night, plug your instruments in. If you can plug them into BandLab on your computer, then you can plug them into Zoom, and we can bounce some ideas off each other. That's what we're going to be doing Saturday night.
And using the E as the root there, the Japanese scale, it makes it sound like you're an A minor. That does make sense because that A minor and the C major, like I was looking at the all white notes basically with that. With
The
just that V flat
Japanese
thrown in.
scale. What is the
The one that we were
Japanese
talking about. Well, the one that we were talking about before, the Kyoto Joshi, I think it was, or I didn't have the Kumoi Joshi. Saying it's the same root as Phrygian, so it's basically we're playing in E Kumoi Joshi scale. But it was, I think that was the pentatonic version that he was talking about, though. So it's the just using the DEF, that scale, which is where that riff kind of came from.
It does sound very like Spanish 70s kind of with that brass sound.
Very exotic.
I feel like I would be hearing some muted guitars behind it, like like a Starsky and Hutch.
Let's see how it feels with an 85. I'm not gonna put a scale in it, but we'll just.
That
if we were
there
saying.
you go.
This feels like. That's a C major. I just wanted to see what it thought of for the rhythm on that, but if we kept that rhythm and did what we were doing there.
Oh, to what I was doing? Oh, Jesus. It's to that.
This is too fast, probably.
No, that is too fast.
Let's break down to like 80. It is hard to feel the one on that, isn't it?
I'm starting to feel it a little.
Yeah, you are. Let's try one that's a little different.
It kind of changes my riff. Although I could, with that kind of riff, I could feel that shit out.
I don't know about that one. But that one feels like Pink Floyd, actually, but that's a ska beat.
Man, learning to fly.
That's what I'm hearing, yeah. How about this one? That's all too basic. More cowbell. That's a cumbia beat.
I can feel around that kind of beat too. It totally
Yeah.
changes what I would be playing, but at the same time,
Right.
I could massage that into those kinds of. I'm digging those drums on that.
It's not bad, right?
Yeah,
How about
for
this is a Casio CTK 611. 100 rhythms, 200 tones, 61 keys. How about jazz waltz? A little bit too slow. too slow for it, though. Bring it back up to like 100.
I have a hard time feeling jazz.
Yeah. Especially with a waltz.
I
It's
love
like
it.
an
I
interesting
just have a
combo.
hard time playing it.
How about just a straight swing? Something like that. Turning it into a big band swing.
Yeah, I'm trying to refill out those chords.
Actually, let me try.
See, it's the
Nova.
E that's fucking me up because I don't think I'm playing the E right.
I usually do with the E, the G, and the B flat. Because that's the.
Oh, B flat. That's what's fucking me up. I'm not flat in the B.
Yep. Here's the bossa nova groove.
Feels so spicy.
The only prescription is more cowbell. I really do like the bossa nova groove, though. Usually it's not this slow. Usually I go a lot faster.
Yeah, I was gonna say.
Feels good at a slow speed. What about the bossa nova 2? Oh, there you go.
I think you got your request on the.
That's
That's
gotta
not
be fast.
cowbell. That's a.
That's back to 120. But we could also go with a different progression at that point. What key does that feel like?
I don't know.
I'm thinking happy like a G. And what if we get that? What if we do that 1, 3, 4 stuff going again? In the key of G.
The 1, 3, 4.
Yeah.
Yeah, see the mechanical drum beat ends up fucking me up more than it helps me.
Yeah. I hear that.
I had the same problem with Easy Drummer the other day.
Mhm.
Certain beats, like the ones that become very mechanical, like you know, I kind of want a little bit of off timeness. Like the ones that I ended up using, I ended up having to slide a little bit just to give it a little less mechanical. And then it's coming up with something to that kind of beat.
Yep. And it's trying to hit that button that many times at that speed.
That'd be kind of jazzy, right?
A little bit.
I don't even know what the hell I'm doing at this point. But you got me thinking in these bizarre key combinations, especially with those beats.
Exactly. It's also where like doing the exploration by just looking at one interval at a time, or seeing what interval feels like it would fit here versus there, or whatever.
That feels kind of jazzy, right?
Yeah. What's funny is when I'm looking at you on the right side one, it's like it looks like you got your right hand way up high on the keyboard. And I'm hearing these low notes come out. I'm like, what?
I know it's reversed up there. Look at how good I am. I can
It
play
is
all the way at the
reversed.
top
Man,
and
it
sound
makes-
like a bass.
Impressive. Shocked you. It's got some good sound.
You know what? As a bassist, you must know.
They're fun.
Trying to get this roll down.
I'm hearing an E, F sharp, like going back up to the F sharp.
5-minute warning. 5-minute warning.
5
Oh
minutes,
my God,
everyone.
BandLab will cut us off in 5 minutes.
How
It is
dare
BandLab's fault. It is not Angified Presents' fault. It is BandLab's fault with just 4 hours.
4 minutes.
We gotta get her eyes
That's
like blinking
right.
red.
4 minutes. So finish talking your shh IT.
Gotta finish talking. That's right. Thank you, thank you. The final countdown. There it is.
Yeah, we were trying to figure it out the other day. Another one I used to know. Wanted to play it with my band, but ironically, one of the few metal keyboard songs of the time, and they didn't want to play it.
That one needs square wave.
This was an awesome pre-jam. Yeah, it's A, Well, it doesn't start on A. It starts on E, but I think
That's F, E, and D.
that's F, E, and D.
Yep.
No, isn't it?
I think it's. Not sure what key it's in, honestly. It feels like. That feels right. Yeah, it has like F and E at the top.
There you go. There you go. No. And we are almost to the final countdown. Couple minutes left. Thanks for joining us, guys. If any
Next
of you
week.
are interested in jamming on Saturday, send me a DM and we'll hook up.
And don't forget, next week, actually, we're taking the week off from broadcasting. So for most of the week after Metal Monday,
Oh yeah,
we're going to
End
be
of
taking the
season
week
one.
off. End of season one, recharging our batteries and all that. But you'll see us all on Monday for Metal Monday, and you can come and jam on Saturday. And other than that, have a great week, and we will see you when we're back.
Oh yeah, Monday's gonna be a party.
Party. We're going to see how many little squares we can fit into the Zoom window. It's probably a lot.
I've been dying to test that.
Yep. Testing the limits. We can do that.
I want to do Beethoven's Fifth, but I don't want to do Beethoven's Fifth. I want to. I want
Indeed.
to variate it. I metalize it like big time.
You want to have done Beethoven's Fifth. And we were cut off. Cut off. No. Emergency. Good stuff, though. A lot of fun.
Now I can go to the bathroom.
Indeed. And I can go get my coffee.
Oh.
Excellent. Bad Lab is down. Correct. Thank you. Thank you. And that's a good thing. But as we said, we have our week off next week, so we'll get things back together right after that.
Did you guys expect me to go ahead and say thank you again for tuning in for another wonderful night of talking? I said of talking IT with Glenn and Tony. Good night, everyone.
Thanks, everybody.
Night, everyone.